But my beats, they are hard.
Hello, welcome to a live edition of the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian Fulford and A.D. True. Glad to be on with you another Sunday night. Drew, you got the shades on. We trying to tell people Mama raised you right, Drew. That's what tell them.
I know I'm not supposed to wear shades inside, but you know something, Brian? This is my damn house, so I could wear my shades inside. And if I want to go put on a hat, I'll go find a hat to put on too. You know, my mama did teach me manners. There you go. We got the combo going on. So
My mama raised me right, and my mama told me to go out and kick ass. Kick ass. So that's right. Kick ass when you got to kick ass.
You got to do it in your birdie back. Kick ass.
Hey, how great was that, man? And for those of you who haven't seen it, you gotta go see the video post game. Now, what's funny about the whole post game video? This is Coach Prime in the Colorado locker room. His mother, Miss Sanders, is there. But did you notice The Rock was up there too on the little? He has like in the locker room. There's like a little stage in the locker room. Did you notice that The Rock was there too?
Yes.
That was like the most. I mean, he was there, but it was like what. Oh, hey, The Rock. No, but his mom was there. So I love it, man.
Yeah. And Brian, these shades.
Somebody makes it personal, Drew. I don't know if we can go a full 11 weeks and every opponent making it personal. I don't know how long that can go. How long can that theme and that strategy last?
Yeah. Well, how we used to do it when I was in elementary ed. We used to have a sunglasses day because our future is so bright that we didn't want to blind anyone. So that's how I feel about buying two HBCUs, and that's how a lot of fans feel about their football team right now. And for others,
unless
we're wearing shades. You're wearing shades because the hide, and you don't want to see the people cry.
The tears, exactly. You're hiding the tears.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want people to see you crying about what's going on with your football team. Hey, shout out to the SWAC West. Got a non-conference victory. Shout out to the CIAA South.
Whoa. Take that back. Not just a non-conference, but multiple teams won in the SWAC West. So it's like, hey, the SWAC West, there's only one team that is winless in the SWAC West.
Exactly. Multiple non-conference victory. And let's give a shout out to the CIAA South. As much trash as we've talked about the CIAA South and thought they were going to get mollywopped by the CIAA North in the first of 3 weeks of crossover matchups, the CIAA went chalk. They went 3-3 against each other. And the three teams at the top of the East won. The three teams at the top of the East, at the top of the North won. And the three teams at the top of the South won. So it went chalk last week.
Yes, indeed. And I will say, you talked about people wearing shades to hide the tears. It primarily nobody took it on the chin harder than Howard fans because boy, they were so close to reclaiming and getting that H back, but it just wasn't meant to be. So another long 365 days being known as Howard, and no H for you because it is permanently stuck in Hampton, and Hampton, Virginia is home to the H for another year. We'll talk about that in a second. Give a quick shout out to a few folks. Coach Farasi jumping in early. We'll catch up with him coming up in hour 2. Jamie Walker is going to join us too in the second hour. So Jamie's going to sit in not only on that conversation with Coach, but also right out the second half of the show with us. So looking forward to. We haven't heard from Jamie in a minute, so his alma mater is going through. He might wear some shades to hide the tears of his alma mater. Yeah, those blinders. Stuff being an Aggie right now.
He may play hide and seek and just decide not to come out after 10.
Right, exactly. Shout out to Chuck Hunt checking in from Monroe, Louisiana. A lot of smiling faces in Louisiana this week, Chuck. Grambling got a win. Southern got a win. Man, a lot of people are smiling about life in Louisiana this weekend. So we'll talk about that.
Hey, Bryan, did you notice this weekend? I saw a report come out. I really didn't, but just follow me on this story.
Okay.
That club attendance by males age 25 to 49 was down this weekend on the East Coast.
I had not seen that report, Drew. Tell me more, because I fall into that category. I still fall into that category, so I'm curious.
Well, there were a lot of male football fans who were at home or somewhere watching a football game. It was almost like a Floyd Mayweather type fight or Mike Tyson fight was on because of the game that came on at 10 o'clock Eastern time and had overtime. So the game went to about 1:30. So there are a lot of females who are extra mad at football season who were in the club this weekend in the Eastern time zone because they ain't had nobody to buy them a drink, Bryan. There were no guys there to buy them a drink.
Well, look, the real men would have told their women that, hey, baby, it's football season. So my Saturdays from about noon to midnight will be occupied with football. We can go do all that extra stuff in the morning or on Sunday, but Saturdays from noon to midnight at 12 hours, don't count on me. Don't count on me. Right. So yeah, there's a lot of thirsty women in the clubs, I guess is what we'll
a lot of bartenders didn't get tips. A lot of waitresses didn't get tips this weekend because the fellas wasn't there to tip them. And last thing on this, Bryan, I don't know what the comment. We were both at the Florida A&M West Florida game, but we were in two different areas. Access to the press box at Bragg Stadium is limited, so Bryan and I were in two different areas.
That's
and Bryan, did you? I don't know what the conversation was in the area that you was in, but in the area that I was in, were people like looking at their phones and looking at their watch and planning their day like, okay, this game need to hurry up and get over. Where am I going to go watch this game? Do I drive home? Do I go to a local bar, restaurant, friend house to go watch the Colorado game? Because there were people literally planning on how they were going to watch the Colorado State game while, at least in the area where I was at, while we were working the FAMU West Florida game. So did you happen to notice that? Your
No,
people were talking about that game as much as the game on the field that was
no,
occurring.
there was enough stress over the first half of football that there was no thought of what Coach Prime and Colorado was doing. Rattler Nation was trying to just figure out, are we gonna get this thing right, or are we gonna continue to be in a 3-3 shootout with this Division II team? So yeah, that's so no. Folks where I was more concerned about what Rattler Nation was doing. All right. Let's go to, let me give a few more shout outs here. Got to say hey to Tamara T. Tamara, good to see you. Yep. David Garner jumping in there. Good to see you, David. Come on. I know you got some great headlines that David's going to be dropping. Theron Waters, hail. Good to see you. Those Wildcats, man, that was a tough one on Thursday. But I think they might have covered because somehow Miami stopped scoring in the second half. I have to go look that up.
Well, they covered. There were a couple of HBCUs who didn't cover.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about those. Edo Green, good to see you. Yeah, definitely. Shedeur is the reason Colorado won that game. Okay, so while we mention that, you saw the play on Travis.
Give Shiloh his props for the pick six. Although he's not as fast as his dad, Shiloh had more Jerry Rice type speed.
When did he get
that's how Colorado got their first game. Yeah, Shiloh got a pick six. That was the opening. That's how Colorado got their first touchdown of the game. Shiloh had
of the game. Okay, yeah. See, I didn't come into I didn't watch. I didn't when I picked up the game. By the time I got to the hotel, after all the post game stuff we did, it was halftime. So I walked in. You started the third quarter, seeing that Colorado State was leading. So that's where I picked up on it. And then of course I through overtime. So
yeah. And that goes to that perfect rule where you don't take points off the board despite the penalty, because Colorado State had just kicked a field goal, but there was a penalty on the field goal play, and the result of the penalty, I think it was roughing the snapper or running into the kicker, something along those lines. Mm-hmm. So they take the points off the board, take the first down, call the timeout, and on literally the next play, Shiloh has the pick six and scores for Colorado. Which goes to show, despite the fact you had the opportunity for the touchdown, the rule is you never take the points off the board once you have earned them. And that was a perfect case in point on that. But yes, getting back to that dirty play.
Okay. So are we calling it? We're calling it dirty. That's what we're calling.
That was dirty, Brian. As much as we have with shots to the head and late hits and
it wasn't a shot to the
targeting
head.
And everything like that, it wasn't a shot to the head, but it was so late, so cheap to the sternum area. Mm-hmm. That we've seen players ejected for less than that at all levels.
Not anymore. Not anymore. I think they're coming around, Drew, to the ejection. Like that play, yes, I agree with you. It was dirty. But nowadays, you get an unsportsmanlike, and you almost get like that warning. You cost your team 15 yards, you get an unsportsmanlike. The next time you get one, then you're ejected. And since he didn't hit him with the head, he hit him with the shoulder. He wasn't technically out of bounds. It was unnecessary. It was dirty. Yes.
I thought that was Jack Tatum over there hitting Travis Hunter.
But what's funny is when 20 years ago, and I know this is a different day and age. So save that comment. Well, I don't know if it was perfectly clean, but it was accepted. You would have applauded the safety from Colorado State if you were a Colorado State fan or just a casual college football fan. You would have said, "Oh man, great shot! Take out the best guy. do it in a sort of legal way, but you hate to see there you're in that part of you hate to see a young man who's has so much star potential injured, but then again we're playing football, and it's questionable. It's dirty. You don't coach your kids to do that, or at least you shouldn't coach your guys to do that. But is that guy from Colorado State trying to help his team? Sure as heck he was. And so, look, it is.
It almost looked like they had bounties on certain players for Colorado, and I'm not accusing them of that, but there was so many personal fouls and late hits in that particular game by Colorado State. It makes you wonder if there was some type of bounty system going on, and it's a shame that once again
it's going to come out.
We have been robbed of seeing who could potentially be one of a generational talent in Travis Hunter not being healthy for a full season again. Keep in mind, when he came to Jackson State last year, he was not healthy.
Correct.
And then he got hurt mid-season. The closest thing he was to healthy was during the SWAC championship game and the Celebration Bowl at the end of the season. So this year, you saw for 2.5 games a healthy Travis Hunter. Heisman potential, Heisman watch list.
Mm-hmm.
We got robbed by something that should not have happened. If it's an ankle, if it's a knee, if it's one of those, a football injury, you deal with that. This is tough to stomach, tough to swallow when it is something that looks so egregious. And
but
somebody should have gotten payback on that safety. Edwin, isn't it ironic that the safety who got beat for the game-tying touchdown for Colorado, I don't know the young man's name, and if I did, I would not call it.
Tight end, I think.
No, the one who got beat for Colorado State.
Oh, okay.
It was a tight end that caught the ball, but I wouldn't call that young man's name out anyway. But it's ironic that the young man who hit Travis late out of bounds on the dirty play is the one who got toasted.
Yeah,
for the game time touchdown.
There's karma.
That was the payback.
There's the karma. Yeah, there's the karma.
So
there's the karma.
Payback does not have to be physical.
Football gods coming in. Small G coming in. Definitely. So that's but hopefully he will recover and he'll get a chance to get back out on the field.
Let's just hope that we one day get to see a Travis Hunter for a full season healthy.
Yeah. Interesting point, David Garner. Colorado State had the most penalties in an FBS game in the last 25 years. Wow. 17 penalties. I swear I've seen 17 penalties in a SWAC game before. I'm messing. I'm messing. 17 penalties is a lot. I'm just messing. We've seen double-digit penalties before. I'm just saying 17 penalties.
I've seen some dozen cousin penalty games.
We've seen
in
some
my years covering HBCU football. I have seen some 10, 11, 12 penalty games, and with the games that hurt you are the ones where you got double digits by both teams. And we've seen our fair share of those. Those may be those type of games that you're thinking about where it seemed like there was 17-on-1. That's because one team had 10, the other team had 13, Brian.
Yeah. 18. Yeah. 18 against Florida State. Was that this weekend? Yeah. Okay. So let me make sure. Did I read that right? Colorado had the most penalties in an FBS game in the last. Colorado State had the most penalties in an FBS game in the last 25 years. I don't understand, David. You got to clarify that a little bit, and because if Boston College hit 18, what are we talking about?
We had a rough weekend.
Put it like this: it's a lot of penalties being thrown out there. Let's just put it like that. There's a lot.
I know there were a lot of personal foul type penalties in that game. more than the average game. The average game, you may see one, maybe two per team for the entire game. It seemed like every other flag thrown was a personal foul
Yeah.
in that particular game, or a roughing type penalty or something along those lines, which are considered personal fouls.
Yeah.
And unsportsmanlike. Those are the ones unsportsmanlike. That's what I saw a lot of.
Right. Exactly. All right. So let's
Prayers to
move
Travis Hunter for a fast recovery.
for sure, definitely. We hope Travis recovers and is recovering. Hopefully, he is able to return this season. I will say my Shedeur Sanders Heisman 45-1 ticket is looking better and better. The odds are now down to 18-1. Drew, I was checking him this morning. He is 18-1 now. Actually sitting 1, 2, 3, 4. He's sitting in the sixth or seventh favorite spot now.
The one benefit of this is now with Travis being out, a lot of people who may have been looking at Colorado and figuring out how to split their vote.
Oh, sure.
Will now just vote for Shedeur. So that may be the one byproduct of this unfortunate situation is Shedeur should climb up, because with two Heisman Trophy candidates on the same team, it's like, is it the person giving them the ball, or is it the person who's catching the ball? And we all know what Travis does on defense. But let's get real. The Heisman is an offensive award.
It is. It's a quarterback award, unless a running back, or I don't even know how a receiver won that one year. I don't even know how.
Well, you got as a kick returner, they have to do something besides catch the ball. Okay. They're going to be a kick returner, punt returner. Think Rocket Ishmael or somebody like that. Charles Woodson was a kick returner and played 2 days. That's right. Rocket didn't win the Heisman.
No, never won. He did not win a Heisman. Charles Woodson
did Tim Brown. That's what I'm thinking.
Tim Brown, receiver and punt returner for Notre Dame. Yeah. First big Heisman spotlight game coming up for Colorado with the kid from Oregon, Bo Nix. So Bo Nix is one of those top 5, top 10 favorites. Shedeur is a top 10. So there you go. First big showdown. And then, of course, you got the matchup against USC later in the year. Every week. Okay, there's the official penalty gate.
Boston College.
Yeah, maybe that's what he was talking about in the yardage. 17 for 182. Now, that might be an FBS record. 182 is a lot. That's an average. What? Somebody do the math. That's 10 yards of penalty. That's over 10 yards of penalty average.
Yes, that's just short of 11 yards per penalty.
Yeah, so
about 10.7, 10.8.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into talking about some HBCU action. I got to start with the Truth and Service. Is that what it's called? The Truth and Service Classic. Here's the truth.
You know why I have the shades on when you talk about that game, Brian.
Here's the truth. The truth is Hampton is the real HU. They may have been founded a year later than Howard. I was listening to the broadcast. Jay Walker was very clear about.
Oh, he made sure to emphasize that.
Yes, but the truth is Robert Prunty, the head coach of Hampton. I got to get the last name right, but
something like that.
He's never lost to Howard. I don't know if he ever will lose to Howard. This century has been owned by Hampton, except for there was a 4-year stretch. There was one graduating class from freshman to senior year where Howard won like 4 years in a row. But every other year has been dominated. And true, I went back and looked at the stats. They have played every year. Can you imagine playing somebody every year, and now you have lost 18 of the past 22 years? This millennium, this century, you have lost to Hampton. Damn. And when you had a 31 to 14? Let me make sure. It was 31-14 at one point. Howard leading in the third quarter. And let me make sure I'm looking at it right here. Yes, 31-14 in the third quarter after Howard kicked a field goal. And then Hampton rolled off 3 of the next 4 scores on a 93-yard run in one play by Elijah Burris. Then you had a 12-yard pass from Chris Zellis to Paul Woods. And then I think after either an interception, which I think was Howard's first Howard quarterback, Quentin Williams, it might have been his first interception of the season. The ball goes back to Hampton, and they go 7 plays, 63 yards. Chris Zellis, a name that, hey, Drew, that young man, he needs to be in the conversation. I don't know, it really is going to depend on what Hampton does in the CAA, but that young man needs to be in people's mind in the conversation for Black College Football Player of the Year, because that kid is nice. That kid is nice. And I hope Hampton can keep it going in the CAA because, yes, I know they lost to Norfolk State, but yardage-wise, they beat Norfolk State last week. And, of course, I know Hampton's dealing with compliance issues. I don't know how many. It doesn't seem like the main stars were severely affected by that, but Drew, 35-34 is the final score. Hampton wins again. A game that I won in our picks contest, by the way, Drew.
Anyway.
Hampton improved to 2-1. Howard dropped to 1-2. Howard alums are going nuts. I was following some Howard alums, obviously on my timeline. They were beside themselves. They're ready to fire any and everybody, replace the quarterback, get rid of the coach. It seems like get rid of any and everybody that's responsible. 16,630 people in attendance for that game. In DC, I was trying to watch the end of it on the replay because I just wanted to hear how Jay Walker was taking it because I know it had to be stressful.
You couldn't hear him at the end on how he was taking it because he wasn't saying nothing, Brian.
He was just shocked at what he was watching, I'm sure.
Yes. Brian, you asked, how does it feel to be on the wrong end of a rivalry like that? I do not personally know how it feels. Yes, I know we had our decade at Florida A&M where we couldn't beat Bethune, but I could give you some references, Brian, on teams that you can check with their fan bases and see how it feels.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And these just happen to be 2 fan bases that play my second alma mater, which is Tuskegee. Check down in Montgomery, Alabama, with Alabama State. As Tuskegee still owns the Turkey Day Classic, even though we come into Montgomery every year to play the Turkey Day Classic. Now, finally, in the last couple of years that we've played, it has turned around in favor of Alabama State. But even if you take the last five times that we've played, Tuskegee's still up 3-2 the last 5 times that the Turkey Day Classic has been played. And if you really want to know how I feel, Brian, just go to Atlanta and ask the Maroon Tigers about that Tuskegee Morehouse Classic that Tuskegee owns at a over 80% clip. I can't tell you, but I can damn sure tell you how it feels from the other side, from the good side of it.
Well, I would say if you know a Howard alum, if you didn't text them last night,
hug a Howard alum.
Hug a Howard alum. It's the only time you get a chance to say the H in hug and Howard. So other than that, it's just hug a Howard alum because that H doesn't get to go with them anymore. That H belongs in Hampton. So now Hampton moves into conference schedule, and that'll be interesting to pay attention to. You know,
And they'll move right out of the minds of everybody else at HBCU when they move into conference.
But will they though? You know, that's the thing. I mean, they start with a game against Richmond, who lost to Morgan State. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, how is Hampton ready to move into relevance? I guess, you know, that's what we're waiting to see.
Relevant where, Brian? Relevant in the CAA or relevant in the minds of HBCU football fans? Because as long as they play, no offense, A&T and Howard, as long as they play in the CAA, they are only going to have limited relevance.
Yeah, but that's I disagree. That's all based on how they do in the CAA, because here's why. Here's why I say that. They're in a conference that's highly rated and regarded, right? So let's just say Hampton is good enough. I don't think their defense is good enough this year, to be honest. They give up a lot of points. But let's just go with me here. Let's say if Hampton is able to be in contention, or hey, maybe they're one game out of first place in the CAA come November. Well, by that time, they probably got about 7 or 8 wins under their belt. Might even be nationally ranked. You don't think they're going to end up in a few HBCU polls? We were just having a conversation. We can talk about this on the other side of the break. There are 4 teams that are 2-1, and when you put up some resumes, you asked me the question earlier, Drew. You said, "Hey, who would you rank first, second, and third?" And I told you forgot about this Hampton team, and I would put Hampton.
Say that again. Say that again.
I said, "Who?" Okay, so who would you rank?
No, that last thing you just said.
First, second,
I did what? I did what about Hampton?
You left Hampton out. You didn't
because I forgot about him.
You forgot about him, right? Right.
That's what's going to happen to Hampton.
No. But who didn't forget about him? I didn't forget about him. You forgot about him.
Last week, the weekend before Thanksgiving, the final weekend of the season in FCS, Hampton has an opportunity to play for first place in the CAA. Are you and game is on whatever TV or streaming platform? Are you going to watch that game? Or are you going to be worried about the Florida Classic? Are you going to watch that game? Or are you going to be worried about the Soul Bowl? You know, they will. It will be by the way, I might send an alert on my phone on somebody's app to catch a score. Hampton will have limited relevance, Brian. Unfortunately, because of their conference affiliation, and it's for most. For most, if y'all tell me, Flow Sports, whatever they own, Flush Sports as I call them. But y'all tell me if I'm telling the truth. Even if Hampton's in contention, how much will you really pay attention to Hampton, A&T, and probably Tennessee State? Even though we tend to give more love to Tennessee State. But how much will you really pay attention to them once we get into SWAC play, MEAC play, SIAC, SCIAA play?
Well, it all depends on the level of success. Winning matters, and winning. We say this all the time. Winning is hard. Winning matters. If they are
Tennessee State was in contention in the OVC last year, and they were. They were midway through the season. Yeah. Yes, they were. They were a game out of first place in late October last year. And what were they at? What were they at on our show notes?
A&T would be a better example because A&T was in contention. All they had to do was win their last game of the regular season, and they would have gone to the playoffs.
What were they at on our show notes? And what were they at on our show notes?
They're probably about third or fourth item. I mean, but that's to be expected. I mean, we got HBCU matchups. You know, yes, I get it, but they were there while we were talking about conference championships on the line for some of our HBCUs. Guess what? We were talking about A&T right there with an opportunity to win their last shot in the Big South, and they blew it.
By the way.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, A&T playing for a championship.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll tell Jamie that when he comes
those
on.
shades are you being real shady right now. So I'm gonna just say it like that. You being real
And,
shady.
and I think it was David Garner. We're going to talk about that Allen Kentucky State game a little bit later on in this show today, because that was a hell of a comeback by Allen.
Yeah, we've got a host of unbeaten teams. No more unbeaten teams in the FCS level, as Central took it on the chin. But we're going to talk about 2-1. We're going to look at resumes. We're going to talk about this coming up on the other half. We got a host of 2-1 teams, and we're going to put up, look, the BCSN. We don't do preseason rankings. Our rankings come out after the 4th week of the season. So, and guess what? Drew and I don't do these rankings. So if you want our opinion, you're about to hear our opinion. If we had a poll, if somebody wanted to include, nobody asked me to be in their poll. So I'm not in anybody's poll. I'm just putting that out there, folks. But anyway, so I guess, we just got to have our own personal opinion poll. But when it does come time to do the rankings, we're going to see where people are in a couple weeks. So coming up on the other side, it's time to compare and contrast resumes. 2-1 teams in the FCS. Who would you rank? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is there anybody else that's 2-1, or is it just 4? I think it's
just
4. All right, 4 2-1 teams. We're gonna rank them 1, 2, 3, and 4 coming up on the other side. Drew's gonna put them out there.
My future is bright, y'all.
His future is
definitely. My future is bright, and Mama never talked to me about shades, so I just do my own thing when it comes to shades.
Hang tight. We'll be back. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap on the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com. Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. here. And thanks to everybody for jumping in, logging in on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, of course. Please hit that thumbs up button or hit the like button wherever you're watching. Go ahead and retweet it if you're watching us on the Twitter machine called the X machine, I guess. Drew, what you had one more comment you wanted to throw out there?
Yeah, I hope Cricket was watching that last segment, because these are my cricket shades.
They're not paying
so
us.
Yeah, but maybe somebody sent me a little bit of something for that segment from cricket. Yeah, that's I did some product placement. I'm hustling for money right now. So cricket,
No shame.
no shame to my game. No shame to my game, y'all. No shame to my game.
All right. Okay. So, Drew, go ahead now. You hit me with an interesting question that you asked me earlier today regarding resumes and how people are going to be ranking HBCU teams heading into this upcoming week after 3 weeks, just 3 weeks now of the regular season. Well, 4 if you're Jackson State and South Carolina State. So go ahead.
All right. Currently, we have 4 teams on the FCS level who are 2-1. Let's remove the names from the teams. Let's remove the quality of the opponent for right now from the team, and let's not even look at future schedule. Let's just look at the raw data.
Okay.
Of those 4 teams, because and the reason I say this is the theory. This is some of the theory behind the BCSN computer rankings.
Okay.
This is some of the theory. It removes a lot of that human bias. Now, the one thing that the computer does that we're not doing in this scenario, it kind of does take into consideration the quality of the opponent that you beat. But for right now, we're going to remove that.
I don't know how you're moving, but I'm okay. I'm buying in. Go ahead. I'm just going to shut up and be quiet here. Go ahead.
All 3 teams are 2-1.
All
4 teams. 4 teams are 2-1. 4 teams are 2-1.
You're already biased. Go ahead.
3 of these teams have played an FBS opponent and lost to that FBS opponent.
Okay.
2 of those 3 teams also played a Division II opponent and beat that Division II opponent for a victory. So for their 2 FCS teams who've lost to an FBS, who've beaten the FCS, and have beaten an AD2. We got that for 2 teams. Mm-hmm. We have 1 team who's lost to an FBS and has beaten 2 FCSs. And then we've got a 4th team that is 2-1 who has defeated 2 FCSs and lost to an FCS. Mm-hmm. How do you rank these 1 through 4 just based on that criteria, that set of data that I just put out in front of you?
The inconsistency.
What is more valuable to you as a pollster? The fact that they played FBSs and lost? Does the fact that they played D2s discount one of those 2 victories that they have? Or the fact that another team lost to same level competition?
Well, this isn't me, but I'm sure there are people, pollsters, who might sort of penalize you for playing a Division II team, regardless of whether you won or lost. Now, if you lose, they're probably double.
You're going to get penalized,
you, right? And they're also the same effect of there are people who are not taking into consideration you playing an FBS opponent because there's the expectation that you are going to lose to an FBS. But they will give credit.
Start to lose your Brian, your volume.
No, it's probably because I was on my. So again, what I was saying is the same people who may take away playing an FBS team, they will give you credit if you were to beat an FBS team. So that's the inconsistency of what you're asking, in my opinion. So for me, I have to look at who is the D2 team you played, and I also have to look at who is the FBS team you played, and how did you do against that FBS team. That's how I would do it.
So what do we do with the team that is 2-1 against FCS competition?
You have to look at who those FCS teams are. Were they considered the upper tier, middle of the road, or lower tier FCS team, HBCU team? You know, because if you played, and I mean, I hate to say this, but if you played Texas Southern, Valley, and who else is winning? I can't use UAPB because they got to win.
D State.
No, I'm looking for FCS. I'm
Dale
saying
State.
a third.
Dale State.
Okay, Dale State. So
Dale
yeah,
State.
yeah. If you are 2-1, and the 3 games you played were Dale State, Mississippi Valley, and Texas Southern, then that's not as impressive to me as somebody else who may have gone 1-1 against FCSs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And for those who don't know who the 4 teams that we're talking about.
Well, hold on. Let me hear you. Hold on. No. Don't, before you say who they are, I want to hear yours. What's your how are you looking at it?
If you're going to get me to take a deeper dive and actually get to put names on the opponents of these 4 teams, who beat the higher rated team on their level first? Who beat the higher rated FCS opponent?
But see, now you two are now looking at
right. But you said you opened it up. You opened it up.
Well, because for me, I can't look at it just on FCS or D2 or FBS. I don't. I can't.
And see, and here's the other thing, Brian. When it comes to say FCS polls, those 2 of those teams that we're talking about, all they are 1-0 because they only looking at FCS victories.
Right. Okay.
Another team is 1-1, and then another team is 2-1. If I was an FCS poster, so that that changes that dynamic up when you just look as if I was voted in the FCS only poll.
Right.
Is that 1-0 better than that 2-1, or better than that 1-1, despite what we see on paper? And these are some of the basic dilemmas that these people have to go through, because I know it's out there. I know they played this D2-1. I know they played that FBS, but the only data that I could use is FCS when it comes to voting.
And how about
if I was voting FCS level?
How about this? I'll add a 5th team. The 5th team is the team that's played 3 FCS opponents, gone 2-1, and played 1 FBS opponent and lost. Now, does that team does that team deserve to be in the conversation? Again, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So if you are how you evaluate 1 and 2, 3 and 4, I think is really based on, me personally, I would do this. I would throw out the FBS opponent. I really would. Now, but
that's fair.
But I would put a hold on. I would put a little asterisk against and this is where you know me, right? You know how I am. I would look at expectation. Did you cover expectation against that FBS opponent?
And only one team did.
Exactly. Only one team did.
But that same team struggled against the D2 for a half.
But I don't think you can look at a half. because that D2 team is better than everyone else's D2 team that
Correct.
has been played, right?
Correct.
So again, I put a small little asterisk next to that and say, yeah, you struggled in half, but you still beat that team, Division II team, by 3 touchdowns. Which, I mean, I'm I don't there wasn't a line for that
But
matchup.
that's expectation.
But yeah, I'd say at least 3 touchdowns is expectation. 3 or more touchdowns, right? All right, so let's go ahead and put the resumes out there. Who are the 4 teams?
The 4 teams: North Carolina Central, 2-1.
Okay.
Defeated Winston-Salem State, North Carolina A&T, lost to UCLA.
Okay.
Florida A&M defeated West Florida, defeated Jackson State, lost to USF. Tennessee State, who defeated UAPB, Garner-Webb, lost to Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Hampton, who defeated,
Grambling.
let's see, they defeated Howard, they defeated Grambling, and lost to Norfolk.
Correct.
And now you've added Jackson State in.
I have.
Who defeated South Carolina State, lost to Florida A&M, defeated Southern, and lost to FBS Texas State.
Right.
So, I just want to put something on the mind of people who voting. And Bryan,
so what? So
of all those victories, I think, and I'm trying to get my bias, not trying to bias, but the Florida A&M victory over Jackson State was probably the quality win on the FCS level of all those teams' resumes.
I would agree with you. Yes, I will agree with you.
Yeah. Probably, let's see, if I was to look at the loss, the bad loss would probably have to go to, right now, I would say Central against UCLA would be the bad loss among those teams. The win that I'm discounting the most, and I'm staying on Central with that, is against the Division II, would be the Winston-Salem State victory. The win I'm discounting the most against an FCS opponent may have to be Tennessee State against UAPB, possibly.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna throw another bad loss in this mix. The Hampton loss to Norfolk looks like a bad loss to Hampton for Hampton. I don't want to hear the excuses about eligibility, non-eligibility. Y'all didn't let us use that excuse last year in Tallahassee. So that's a bad loss, Bryan.
I'll agree with you. It's a bad loss from the perspective of they outperformed statistically. They outperformed Norfolk State. And the end result was you lost by 8 points. So that's how I think you can measure. If you were doing analytics and looking at the stats and saying the stats equaling the results, they outperformed. They should have won and beat Norfolk State. Statistically, they beat Norfolk State. They did not beat Norfolk State on the scoreboard, though. So, yes, I would say that's a bad loss. So, yeah. Drew, you want to give your top 5? What's your top 5? My top 5? Is that how you want us to do it? You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first because I originally only had 3 in my head. Then you added a fourth one right before the show that I had forgotten about. And now you brought up a fifth one during the show. So yeah, give me a minute to contemplate this.
Okay, so while you're doing that, here's my five. My five. Number 5, I would put and hold on. I need to look at something here real quick. I'm gonna be real quick. I need to see what Gardner. Okay, so
here's a 5 for you.
Hold on. And the reason I say this because I'm looking at preseason expectation by certain teams in these losses. Okay, so my number 5 would it's a toss up between 5. So I'm gonna be cowardly and say tie for 4. I'm gonna be cowardly. My 5 and 4 and 5 are essentially Tennessee State and Howard. And Hampton, excuse me, Tennessee State and Hampton. And here's why it's hard to distinguish. Okay, here's why. Preseason analytically, Hampton was favored to beat Grambling and Norfolk State. They were favored by almost a 7-point favorite over Norfolk State. They lost by 7. The Howard was kind of a 50-50 game, and guess what? It kind of played out that way. 50-50 game, right? Tennessee State was actually not favored to beat Gardner-Webb. They were actually about a 5.5 to 6 point underdog, and they ended up winning that game. So, they met expectations with UAPB. So I guess maybe I should not be a coward. I'll say Hampton 5, Tennessee State 4. Okay, Hampton 5, Tennessee State 4. Number 3, I'd have to actually say, call me crazy. I got to say Central. Because Central lost, what was the final in that game? 59-7. Yeah. I mean, now they gave up probably 11 more points than predicted. So, and that's going to sound real weird here in a second because, again, Jackson State ended up giving up. How many points did Jackson State give up? About 70?
Yeah, about 1.5 million.
I did pick a team, Doc. I did. I stopped being a coward. I said 5 was Hampton, 4 was Tennessee State. Okay. 3, I'm saying North Carolina Central because, I mean, right now they just don't have an impressive win and a really bad loss. I would actually say Jackson State too. I'd go Jackson State too because the Southern road win is impressive. It is more impressive than anything North Carolina Central has done this season. It just is. They went on the road. They beat Southern. Okay.
But which leaves FAMU at 1.
And I would put FAMU at 1 because they beat Jackson State. And they beat a top 10 nationally ranked Division II team, and they covered against USF, who we just saw cover against Alabama. So there's my 5. 1 is FAMU, 2 Jackson State, 3 Central, 4 Tennessee State, 5 Hampton. That's my top 5. What you got, Drew?
Actually, Brian, I agree with you on that 5.
Okay,
but for different reasons.
All right, let me.
But I've got totally different reasons, and I'll start top to bottom.
Okay,
you have to put FAMU number 1. Like I said, they had the best victory that's out there with the win over Jackson State among this group of teams that we are talking about, and they did have the best performance against a FBS opponent, with that being their lost to South Florida, which looks like a better loss now, considering what South Florida did against Alabama, assuming that Alabama is the Alabama that we have traditionally known. Jackson State, obviously, they've got a quality loss at the loss to Florida A&M, but they've got that butt whipping that they took against Texas State. I still the question is out about the quality of the victory against Southern right now, because Southern, despite the fact that they finally got off the schneid, has not shown me what I expected Southern to show me back in July. They have not shown me anything as of yet. So the debate is out on that. But even still, that's better than Central, who the victory against A&T preseason looked good. 3 weeks into the season, I've got those same questions that I have about Southern about A&T right now, as far as how they are looking. And then you beat Winston-Salem, which you were supposed to whoop Winston-Salem like they stole something. So you did what you were supposed to do. 4 and 5, kind of a debate between 4 and 5. Tennessee State. What puts Hampton number 5 is the fact that they lost to Norfolk. It's that simple.
I agree.
You was not supposed to lose to Norfolk.
No,
that is a bad beat.
Yep.
Right. That's the reason why Hampton has to drop to number 5. Norfolk, who lost to a Division II opponent the week prior, and then you lost to them. That's why Hampton gets in at number 5. So Tennessee State winds up at number 4 by default, even though they struggled against the UAPB team. So,
Tamara, you better tell them. You better tell them in the chat to get it right. Get it right. Get it right. But let me respond to this real quick, because EA, you jumping on me, EA. I love you. I appreciate you, man. But Jackson State did score 34 points. Yes, they gave up 77. That's a lot of points. But unlike some other schools,
they have scored the most against an FCS opponent.
Unlike other schools in the SWAC who gave up 70 and only scored 6, none, 7, they scored 34 points, damn it. And so look, save me. I'm the last person that want to give JSU props, but they did score 34 points. So, I mean, other schools are out there putting up.
They only lost by 43 compared to what some of these, other teams lose by 60, when they play FBS opponents. Yes, exactly. They only lost by 40 some odd, which right now looks pretty good, because that's actually behind Florida A&M. That's the next closest margin, if I do remember correctly. And I'm going off the top of my head.
Yeah, hold on. Coming in here, let's jump in, because real quick here before we go to break.
Let's go to break.
Well, hold on. No. Before we go to break, our guy Jamie Walker, he's going to join us here coming up. We got Coach Farasi coming up coming up shortly. But Jamie, we want you to jump in on this and tell us who is your top 5.
Who's my top 5?
You just spelled it out right there. 5 teams that have 2 wins. At least minimum 2 wins. Who's your top 5?
Wow. Clearly I'm going number 1. North Carolina Central. As much as it pains me to say that. Number 2, FAMU. Number 3.
That's why. Wow. We bring in Jamie. See, he evens the show out. See, that way, can't nobody see. People don't think it's biased just because me and Drew are rattlers. Jamie comes in like he gave number 1 to his rival. I love that. Go ahead, Jamie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh man, I'm gonna go number 3. Wow, man. Morgan. I can't. You know what?
They 1 and 2 is Morgan State.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Let me give you the other 2 win teams. You've got Jackson State at 2 and 2. You've got Hampton at 2 and 1, and you've got Tennessee State at 2 and 1. Those are your other 3 2-win teams on the FCS level.
I'm gonna have to go Tennessee State. Even though I think there's a couple of squads in the SWAC I think could could absolutely beat them. I'm not sure if they're a complete team just yet, but right now, they got the wins. If I'm just judging purely from that standpoint, Alabama A&M disappointed me tremendously. Southern doesn't have enough for me right now. So I guess what other 2-win teams am I missing? Go ahead again.
That's it. There's
Hampton. Did you get Hampton in there?
Yeah, Hampton would have to be 4. I tell you what, gutsy win against Howard the other day. Absolutely gutsy win. And I know our friend Erica, and in fact, I would move Jackson to 3rd. Yeah, I would move them up to 3rd, Hampton 4th, Tennessee State 5th. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now if I'm judging them. But gutsy win for Hampton. They had some issues that came out right before the game, and doggone if they didn't go ahead and take it to how not take it to them, but come back for a win. And our friend Erica out there was 38 hot.
If I could just put her to that too. I should make sure to send her a DM and just make sure she's all right because boy, I know that one had to be tough. And
wellness check.
Yes, exactly. A wellness check because boy, she was livid. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. Coming up on the other side, Coach Farasi is going to come in. He watched that Hampton Howard game. He's going to give us that coaching perspective. He also had a chance to watch Alabama A&M and Southern, so we'll get a chance to hear from him as well. Jamie's going to stick in with us, so we're going to go quad box here in a second, and you guys hang in there for a short minute and come back. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Hey, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan, A.D., Jamie Walker joining us. And I think
like Coach is frozen.
Yep. We lost Coach's signal. He was all ready to join us, and something happened. He got sniped. So he'll have to log back in here in a second. For those of you who had the New York Giants in your survivor pools, you survived. I don't know how you did it. But as I look at disgruntled Arizona Cardinal fans trying to figure out how the hell did we lose a 2-3 touchdown lead, because your team is sorry. That's why your team is trash, and you let the Giants come back and beat you. That's why.
Hey, B.
Hey, ask Kentucky State.
Oh, I looked at that replay this morning.
Where? Something hit me with the highlights on that, so I can see this game. I heard Doc mention it.
I've never seen a 30-7 lead where the defense of the losing team was actually playing great. The offense gave Kentucky State all of those points and special teams. And finally, the Allen offense just woke up, and David Wright and Bo Harrington and those receivers just started doing their thing. And literally about the last 9 minutes.
I've been telling y'all since July, David Wright is the best quarterback in the SIAC, not named Kelvin Durham, and he may have challenged Kelvin Durham with that performance on this past Saturday.
Oh, he definitely should have. I'll tell you this. I think the only reason David Wright wasn't preseason offensive player of the year is because he's at Allen. If Allen wasn't Allen and had a sub 500 season a year ago, he might have been up there in contention. But people within the SIC will tell you he is one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks. So. Yeah. So
think about football in Columbia, South Carolina right now. If you're an HBCU football fan, man, I mean, you've got arguably the best quarterback in the conference in your city. You definitely have the best defense in the conference. Congratulations, Lane. Somebody finally scored against that Benedict defense, man. Congratulations, Lane, for doing this. Yeah. If you love HBCU football and you live in Columbia, South Carolina, you have to be ecstatic right now. These two schools are literally across the street from each other, so it's fun.
I would have loved to have gotten that game at the end of the year.
Cox.
You said what now, Jamie? You'd love what?
I would have loved to have gotten that game at the end of the year. Called that game because I called it last year. And it got out of hand with Benedict, but I think this year, if Allen can stay healthy, I think that game is a little bit better. But that Benedict defense, man, it's just it's
where that game is at this year, Brian? I mean, Jamie.
It's at Benedict this year. Yeah, it's at Benedict. Mm-hmm.
So it's a trip across the street, down the street, across the street.
It's actually around the corner. It's actually around the corner because Benedict Stadium is not on campus, but for both of them, they have to go around the corner. But it might be 1/10 of a mile difference for Allen between Benedict for them to go to that stadium versus Allen going to that stadium. It might be 1/10 of a mile further for Allen, literally.
Hey, but I know we're waiting on Coach to get in. But B, I don't know if you've addressed that tweet yet.
The one that's going like viral on my Twitter time
the Jermaine Martin tweet. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh no, that tweet. Okay, I it's hard to keep up with these viral moments.
Okay, fill me in. I haven't been on the X today.
Okay, hold on.
What's going on, Jamie?
Let me find it. Because I'll put it up.
What's this other tweet that's going viral? What's up?
Oh, it's the picture of Ralphie with the shades on, and the guy who said this is he said something about this is HBCU, and I was like, dude, this isn't HBCU. That's as I said, that's some blackity black.
First of all, we don't have live mascots at HBCU.
First and foremost,
no, because you don't want the tigers running around.
Because everybody's a tiger.
Yes,
exactly.
We don't want that animal running around the field. Okay, I think Coach.
We don't want tigers. We don't want golden bears, and we don't want golden lions running around our stadiums. We just gonna start on and get the animal kingdom out of
and damn sure don't want no rattlesnakes running around or even some or some jaguars either. Exactly.
The one you may deal with is a thoroughbred because the kitty may want to ride the horse in Kentucky State, but that's about it, man.
That's it. Okay, let's see. We got Coach in here. Let's see.
And I'm scared. And we're allergic to bees, so that takes care of the Hornets and the Yellow Jackets. So.
Exactly. Coach Farasi, let's see. Coach, are you there?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
We can't hear you. How you doing today, Coach?
Oh, I'm okay. Having a little problem over here, but look like I got it worked out. I do apologize about my time, everything like that.
Oh, you're good.
How's everything going, fellas?
Everything's great. Everything's great.
All right,
Glad you're able to join us.
Hey, Jamie, what's happening? How y'all doing?
Good. How you doing, Coach?
Man, I'm trying to make it. You know what I'm saying? Trying to make it.
There it is.
All right. So two of the biggest games over the weekend, Coach, you were locked into the Truth and Service Classic between Howard and Hampton, the battle for the real HU, as they call it up there in the Northeast or in the Eastern Coast. First off, let me ask this question, Coach. When you have a rival that you haven't beaten in the last 6 years, or that really you haven't beaten but 4 times this century, how do you as a I'm sorry, I'm just setting it up here. It is what it is. But as a coach,
I mean, hey, don't shade nothing, Brian. Don't shade nothing.
What are you saying as a coach? What's that mindset? I don't know if you've ever been into that kind of situation, but what are you saying as a coach? What's the focus and the mindset that Howard had to deal with coming into this contest?
One, I was in that situation before. I coached in New Mexico military from 02 to 05. And at the time, Dixie State was a junior college. And they were like the number 1 junior college in the nation. And we weren't very good that year. I think we were like 0-5. They were like, no, it was later in the year. It was like, we were like 2-6, that's 8. And they were like 8-0. And everyone, what they call that bulletin board mess, Dixie will beat Nemi by 50, headed towards the national championship. So I was the head coach. I was the running back coach and special teams coordinator. But our head coach, he was a little frantic and everything like this. And I was like, John, we can't be scared of these guys. We had a kid by the name of Zach Bowman who played in Nebraska, who played in the NFL. And I said, he says, okay, Norm, I'll tell you what you do. You go get them ready. So I said, so I took my assistant hat off, put my head coach hat on. I wasn't ready to be head coach yet, but I just put my head coach hat on. I just went in the locker room. I said, hey, fellas, they're saying we don't have a chance. We're not very good this year. Let's just put it on the table. We're not very good, but we are who we are, and we know each other. We got love and respect for one another. Don't let these boys embarrass us. Make them earn everything they have. Make them fight. Make them fight. And I promise you, you look up at that game with about a minute 30 to go, it was like 33-34 us. Wasn't supposed to look like that. It really wasn't, but them boys fought for us. And they had this little running back. We couldn't stop this little kid, little Polynesian kid, about 5'6", 180 pounds. He was well built. And they was on like the 7-yard line going in. It looked like some Seattle Seahawks back in the Super Bowl day. But they gave it to this kid. And I remember looking up at the sky. I got this prayer from A.D. Robinson because I remember he said, I'm a big A.D. Robinson fan. You guys know that. And Steve McNair had beat him like 3 years in a row. I remember he said he looked up at the sky and said, Lord, please don't let me lose to this kid 4 years in a row. And I looked up at the sky and I said, Lord, these boys have played hard so well. Please let us get this one. And next thing I know, I don't know how it happened, but the little kid fumbled and we jumped on it and we won. So that's by the grace of God. But the boys played hard. Anyway, to answer your question, to be in that type of situation, the battle of the HUs, I mean, if you're in black college football like we are, we always hear about the battle of the HUs. I didn't really know who was winning the series, but Jay Walker's going to make sure he puts it out there. So, and everything sort of like that. So I thought that it was a very good game, close game. It went all the way to the end of the wire. As a matter of fact, I was late watching the second game, which was Southern. What was that? Southern and
Alabama.
Thank you. Southern. I was late watching that other because I didn't want to turn the channel. I'm like, God damn, I'm gonna miss some stuff. But this game was a good one, everything like that. As the coach, you just pretty much do what I just said, man. You're praying. You're hoping and praying because your teams are fighting. There was no letdown on either side, offense, defense, special teams. I thought the offensive line, they got big boys. They had a good job of running the ball. They didn't do a great job, but they did a good job. The quarterback was okay. Defense was okay. It was just a game. It's the kind of game you want to see at this level. I was very proud to be a black college guy, which I am anyway, but on that particular day, that moment, I don't really care who wins the HU battle, but I just wanted to see a good game. I saw a good game. Once again, when you play a game of that magnitude and it comes down to where you can't turn the channel to go watch the other game because you don't want to miss nothing, you just sit there and you're watching and you're saying, oh, okay. Offensive line wise, like I say, if I'm the head coach, I just hug them because I think they played well. I can't say anything. No, I don't remember the quarterback getting rushed, him getting sacked on either side of the ball. The game was very even to me, so to answer your question, I think you have to wait till next year, coach your boys a little harder and just say, hey, fellas, we got to win this game. We played good last year. We fell short by a point. We didn't get beat, dogged out, spread points, all that Vegas stuff. We lost by a point, but we still got the L. So we have to have that in our back of our mindset that you have to keep it in your mindset till all the way till next season. Because then you can do now. You can't play them again till next year. But when next year comes, you put bulletin boards on the one. Remember, we lost by 1 point. Remember, we ain't won this game in 6 years. Remember, Jay Walker's famous, HBCU quarterbacks going around talking about they own us and everything like that. And so, hey, no. You keep it out there. Kind of like I remember when I know I'm going off subject a little bit, but I remember when Woody Hayes lost to Michigan, and he went and got a rug made. And it had the date for the very next year. So we're going to say 9/30/72. That's my birthday. So we're going to say 9. And everybody like 9. He said, that's when we play them again. I thought that was beautiful. We play them again next year, this time, and we will be ready. And everything's for like that. I love Woody Hayes. Is great. He was a good football coach, everything like that. But not to try to get off subject what you asked me, Brian. If you're the coach, you can't be mad at your team because they played hard for you. They didn't let down. You didn't get beat 50-0, or you didn't get embarrassed. You played hard. You just came up short. Me as a coach, I've been in those situations where you walk into the locker room and you don't like losing. Trust me, you don't like losing. I don't have many losses, but you don't like losing. And you look at everybody and you tell everybody, get in front of me. This is me talking. Everybody get in front of me, coaches and players. And you take a deep breath and you smile and you say, fellas, I love you. And I thank you for what you did. We came up short. I'm going to take this one. I'm not mad at nobody, coaches or players. We got to have a better practice because we kind of want to feel like this no more. But let's put this date on the wall right now. I want everybody to put this date in their memory box. And whatever date they play next year, we're going to say 9/30/72. That's my birthday, 9/30/72. And everybody we're going to say that's when we play them again. And we will be a lot more ready. I love you guys. Everybody break down, take a shower. See you guys later.
Howard did all that. Howard they got out to a 14-0 lead, had a 31-14 lead, and then one play, a 92-yard touchdown, and all of a sudden the momentum changed just like that. So I believe that Coach Scott of Howard probably gave that great speech at the pregame. Probably gave a great speech at halftime too. Say, hey, 30 minutes away, fellas. 30 minutes. We're almost there. And
you talking about that deep pass that he threw? That was a beautiful ball. That was a beautiful ball. Even Jay Walker, which one of the best HBCU quarterbacks of all time, said, I don't think I can throw a ball better than that. Doug Williams is in the stands, and Doug Williams said, I don't think I can throw a ball better than that. And when those two guys say that, that's a good quarterback they got. Once again, like I say, he wasn't pressured. That was a great play right there. Not to cut you off, Brian, but that was just a great play, a momentum changer for everything. But, hey, came up short.
Go ahead, Drew. Go ahead.
And I'm gonna start off with Coach Farasi, and I'm gonna let Jamie chime in on this also. Both you guys have coached at a level higher than I would ever think about coaching when it comes to football. And I want to talk about that decision in the heat of the moment. It kind of came out over this past week where you've got teams where you have to make that split decision on fourth down. Do I kick it? Do I go for it? Or do I go for it? Or do I punt it? Or kick the field goal? Both of you guys talk about in the heat of that moment. Talk about it from two different scenarios. Talk about it when you're trailing and you need that score. And then talk about it when you're ahead and you're trying to close out that game. The heat of the moment of having to make that decision on fourth down. Do I kick this field goal to go up 1 point or to go up 2 points? Or if I'm up, say 1 point, do I go ahead and go for it on fourth down, knowing that if I get this first down and ultimately this touchdown, I can run the clock out and put that team down by 2 scores? Go heat of the moment. Go through that decision because you've only got about You've only got about 3 seconds before you have to make it, and then have a play call one way or the other. So, Coach Norman, then Jamie.
You got to think, how's my defense playing? If I kick this field goal and we go up by 1 or 2, can my defense go out there and stop them? Are they fresh? Do you look at your D coordinator and you say, hey, how we doing? If he gives you the thumbs up, you go ahead and kick it. If he looks at you and he says something like, I gotta go to 2s, then you say, hey, we gotta go ahead, and then you look at your big fellas up front and say, big fellas, I need you to, throw this block. Because what we talking about, 1 or 2 yards away to get the first down, then that's when you go.
Yeah,
to the
we
big
talk about
fellas,
maybe a 4th and 3 or less. We gonna say it's 3 or less.
Yeah, so then that's what I say. If my D coordinator says, hey, coach, we're gassed a little bit, and I don't know, in my 2s, and you say, okay, no problem. And you go to your big lineman and you look at them face to face, and you get a little deep voice. You say, hey, I need you guys right now. I need you guys right now. We need this yard. Then you go to your quarterback and say, hey, buddy, fullback dive, left, right, 21, 22, 32, 30 lead. You don't want to go all the way to the I'm going to give it to the tailback. That's too much time. So now you're talking about between your quarterback and your fullback, if you have a fullback, or you call it a single back, whatever you got. But you can get these 3 yards, but you got to challenge the big fellas up front. Not to the point where if they don't get it, they feel bad about themselves, but to the point where they want to get this for you. They want to do this not for you, for them, for the team, for the school. Hey, look what we did on that 3rd and 3. We needed this. And that's where, and I've been in those situations, and you go for it there. But the first thing you do is you think about your defense. Can my defense hold these guys? We kick it. Then you look at DC, and if he tells you, like, hey, coach, we're gassed, hey, no problem. And then that's when you go to the big fellas and say, hey, we got to get this. We got to get this right now. We got to get it right now. Coach Walker, how you think?
Well, listen, you have definitely coached at a higher level than I have. I'm going to stick to my high school instincts, but it's generally the same thing. When you're talking about what your overall team is like, what is your defense playing like if they get the ball back or have the opportunity to stop an opposing offense? Momentum also has a whole lot to do with this as well. When you're talking about towards the end of a game, and I'm going to take a game we talked about once I chimed in, talking about Allen and Kentucky State. Allen had all the momentum going into the end of into that game, the end of it especially. So when you're talking about an offense that's red hot, depending on what the field position is, you're trying to play keep away. And so if you can get those 3 yards, if you are in a position to where you're talking to those big fellas and they can actually get those 3 yards and your defense is gassed, you most definitely are trying to keep the ball for as long as you can, even if you end up not making the field goal, getting the points, especially if you have the lead, because at least you've given a little more time for your defense to rest. And yes, I'll never take away the instinct part as well. As a coach, you need to know your team and be able to reach down deep and measure their psyche in that moment. And so the belief that you may have in them to get those yards, you definitely want to find out what your team has, look them in their eyes, and go with your gut sometimes. So yeah, when you're going over the analytics of what this team is bound to do and things of that nature, and what your defense is as far as stopping, how long they've been on the field, things of that nature, you take all that into consideration. But at the end of the day, that's why they pay you the big bucks or the small bucks in my case, to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I totally agree with you, Coach.
On these calls, let's be real. These type of calls that I'm talking about, coaches make these calls and they gamble every day, and they go off it like JB said, like instinct and gut. And when you are successful, you look like the greatest coach since sliced bread. But when you fail, or when the other team, you may actually run the play right, get everything you out of it, and somebody on the other side of that ball just makes that play, and we have it, and you're looking like the GOAT. But like I remind everybody, we've all coached, all 4 of us on his panel as coach. Even Michael Jordan missed more game-winning shots than he made. So I just leave it right there.
I love that. Great knowledge, great theory there. All right, let's transition. Any other point? Let me go back to the stats here. When I go back and look at the stats, amazing decisions. I just can't even get into it. I got to reach out to Eric. We got to have her on, because Just I just went back and looked at that again. I haven't watched the game like y'all. I'm still catching up on it, looking at the play-by-play, and I'm shaking my head. I understand those tweets a lot more, a lot better now. The one thing I noticed about Hampton, 258 rushing yards to 116. When you look at that quarterback, Coach Farasi, for Hampton, from what you've seen, Chris Zealous, nice dual threat quarterback. Do you think, and then of course with that running game that they have, do they have what it takes? I mean, is that sustainable in the Colonial, in the CAA? I mean, not a lot of people expect Hampton. Right? I'm sorry. Well, I said the CAA is still the CAA. I don't know what the hell it is. Coastal, Central. I can't keep up. I know it was the CAA. Shoot, I got that part right.
Yeah, they got CAA on their jersey. So
yeah, I got that part right. Does that look sustainable? Does that what you've seen from that Hampton? Does that look like? I mean, I know it's speculating based on I'm obviously not seeing the rest of the conference, but do they look like that's the kind of team that could be competitive? I mean, they're not the worst team. Their preseason predicted last, Jamie or Drew, if anybody recalls, weren't they like? I mean, they were ranked lower than.
If they weren't last, they were second to last.
Yeah, they were ranked lower than A&T. Yeah, they were ranked lower than A&T. So, what's your thoughts on the quarterback Chris Zealous, Coach? Because I think he's shown me a lot, and I think if he had a whole season in another conference that Drew was paying attention to, I think Drew would be salivating all over him. But Drew's not. Drew doesn't want to talk about him because he's not in an HBCU conference. So anyway, Coach, go ahead. Your thoughts.
I think he's a good quarterback. I would love to have him. I would love to coach him. I thought he played well. He stayed poised. I think his offensive line did a great job for him. I did not know they had that many rushing yards. I knew they ran the ball, but I didn't. I don't keep the stats when I'm watching the game. He's a good guy. Good kid. Once again, I think any coach in the country that loves football would love to have that young man. I can't believe they're predicted that low because they're a good team. They're a good team, man. I mean, that offensive line plays well. That quarterback is good. They got a steady run game as we saw yesterday. They get after it on defense. Special teams wise, I didn't see any mishaps on special teams. So for them to be predicted that low, are these other conferences? Is that like Alabama, Florida, Georgia, or something like that? Because that's a good team right there. That's a good team.
Isn't that how people regard the CAA as pretty much the SEC of FCS? Pretty much them in the one other conference.
Yeah, I mean, third as far as ranking the conferences overall. So yeah, unfortunately, but I'm like Coach. Hampton's definitely better than expected, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I was just kind of looking here to see. I think it's. Let me see. I think they've outrushed all three of their opponents this season, and like I said, that's why Drew and I were talking about the fact that they've outrushed, and I'm talking they've outrushed their opponent by almost 100+ yards in every game this season.
Hey, that's credit to the big fellas up front.
Yeah, averaging about 7.
But
go ahead, Drew. But go ahead.
I was gonna say, but Brian, that goes back to what I said last week. Is even though they're getting the yards, it's not about the yards. It's about the attempts and the ability to keep that clock running.
Yeah. And
the ability to shorten the game by keeping the clock running with the new rule where the clock does not stop on first down.
Yeah. Hampton.
Mark the trend. Teams that rush the ball a lot, over 35, 40 times a game, are going to be in better positions to win the game because they keep the defense off the field and that clock keeps running. This rule is forcing people to go back a little bit to old school football.
Averaging 253 yards per game.
That's beautiful.
That's an average of 6.9 per attempt.
That's beautiful.
outrushing their opponent by almost 130, 40 yards. So the question is, will that be sustainable in the CAA? Because if man, I tell you.
Honestly, tell you the truth, Brian, I don't really know much about that conference, but those stats you just laid out there, those are beautiful stats. Once again, let's give the big fellas a pat on the back. Let's give that quarterback a hug and a pat on the back. And they have a good team. So, you know how I feel. We talked about this last week. I like to run the ball. I'm not going to change. Leopards don't change their spots. So, Drew, that clock, I think it was meant for me because they knew I was tired of seeing everybody put the ball in the air. So, like, hey, we got to help Norman out a little bit. So, I'm going to run the ball 35, 40 times. Things like that. Ain't no secret when I'm doing it. I'm going to run the ball 35, 40 times. So, Hampton's a good team. So, for them to be that low, I don't know much about that conference, but I'm going to start to do some homework because to be that low, I mean, wow, they got a good team. And Howard's not a bad team. So, I'm not trying to say Howard was a bad team and they played good. Both teams were pretty dang good that I saw, and I know football, but Hampton's a good football team.
You know what, Coach? And yeah, this is just me in studying the conference over the last couple of years, and really, being from the area and kind of knowing how it's regarded. I think the honest conversation is the CAA really lives on their past. You're talking about James Madison. You're talking about other squads that used to be in the conference that were perennial, playoff contenders and winners. You have the likes of William and Mary still in the conference. You're talking about Richmond. It is not where it used to be, but it is still regarded in part based on its past. And so if you're talking about teams that have gone in that conference, especially HBCU teams that often get the smoke from other folks, it really, to me, has always been a matter of whether or not you want to compete in the playoffs or not. And if you do well in that conference, the stats have already shown that your position within the playoff does increase. And so you're talking about five or six teams went from the CAA just last year. So the teams within their football, and just talking about the football standpoint, running teams, you have a couple that throw the ball around the yard, but mostly grind it out, relying on their offensive lines, stout offensive and defensive lines, not too complex offenses, not anything that you're going to see, high flying acts and, kind of what you see in really a lot of FCS conferences in general, really good offensive lines that have the ability to throw the football and it's timely, but they grind it out. And so I think that's the idea of why some schools have jumped to that conference to some degree, of course, with other ideals. But at the same time, as far as the football within the conference, it's not too complex. So when it comes to Hampton, and I'll give them, props on being able to rush the football, but a lot of those stats are dependent upon Zealous as well. You're talking about the quarterback runs and him being able to scramble and his athleticism. Those are padding those stats a little bit too, with which I don't mind at all. I love a great running game. I want to run the ball downhill, but at the same time, I think it is the slight that often our teams don't get when it comes to overall national rankings. But the CAA still is regarded as one of those conferences that are at the upper echelon of the FCS. So I think that's why they get the props that they do.
Yeah, they just looking at the ratings, computer data, analytic ratings. 4 of those teams in that conference are rated in the top 25 from 10 to 25. 6 of them are in the top 30. 8 of them are in the top 40. And the 2 HBCU schools rated 80 or lower. So, again, prove it on the field. If they go prove it on the field, all the narrative. We'll look at that point. We'll see. Watch them move the goalpost. But anyway, we'll see what happens when one of the schools actually start winning. Let's move over to Southern and Alabama A&M. That's a game that neither team amassed more than 300 yards of total offense. Alabama A&M with just 211 total yards. Southern with 287. Both teams really did it in the air. Alabama A&M total negative 17 rushing yards. Southern with just 62 rushing yards. Coach, what'd you see as you watched that game? I see you shaking your head. What'd you see in that contest? You made it through the game, God bless you. But Tim, what'd you see?
Let me say this right now. I don't want to step on no toes because you guys, I don't get down like that. Both coaches have what I want. I'm looking to be a head coach at the HBCU level. But Bryan, A.D, Jamie Walker, that offensive line was like, no. I mean, those numbers you just presented in a 4-quarter football game, come on, man. Come on. I was disappointed. We talked about Southern last week, and we said pull the O-line coach to the side and say, hey, but we got to get better. I didn't see that. Honestly, I didn't see that. Blood is a good quarterback. I mean, despite what the commentators try to say, that young man's a good quarterback. He's back there. Not gonna say he's back there by himself, but he needs some help. And that offensive line didn't do it, man. That running back that transferred from Alabama A&M, you could tell that was personal because I heard one commentator, you think this is personal? Of course it's personal. I just came from that school. I'm trying to let him know you lost a good player. And I think he scored both touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. He caught one early in the first half, like a little 17-yard pass, and then he made a little run where the tackle drove the defensive end, kind of like that play from the blind side. Well, boy, he said, what you doing? Coach, it was time for him to go. I mean, he just drove that guy all the way to the side, and the running back ran, 20, 22 yards up the field. But I was, honestly, as an O-line guy, O-line coach, I was disappointed in both O-line plays. I was just shaking my head like, wow. That's really all I really want to say, but I was just disappointed in both O-line plays like, wow. Both quarterbacks got sacked numerous times. They were on the run. I mean, like I say, the Alabama A&M quarterback, that poor kid never got a chance to do what he wanted to do because he always had somebody from an opposite color jersey in his face. And poor Blood, he was scrambling left, right. They need help. And the bad part about it is they're not little. They're not 5'11", 6 feet, 230, 250. They got big boys. Now, they ain't big like South Carolina State. I've yet to see a team like them sons of guns, but they're not little. They're big enough to get it done. And yesterday, you just had to take your hat and just put it down. Like, wow.
Jamie, your thought, did you get a chance to go through and get any eyes on that A&M Southern?
Just a little bit. I think Coach Dooley did a really good job at kind of, sizing the game up for Harold Blood. More than anything, went more to the short passing game than he did anything else. I was at the Alabama State game, and Blood started off on fire, and then the game plan just seemed to change completely where he couldn't complete passes. So I think what ended up happening in just a little bit, I looked at this game, I think they shrunk the game plan down for him. Went to the short passing game, wanted to just get him some confidence, and I think they did good enough for him to be able to do some things and leaned on the running game just a little more. So I think that was good enough. Alabama A&M, I'm not exactly sure what their overall philosophy is going to be because they're not settled on the signal caller yet. And so when you're talking about still trying to go through where your team is and what you want to do and what you want to establish, I think those things are still up in the air. They didn't have the first few games to kind of prove that. And so I think they're still searching for that within SWAC play. So I think they just still have more questions than answers right now.
Quincy Casey played every snap for A&M. 19 to 39, 228 yards passing, 1 interception. He was sacked 3 times. Rushing, he had a negative 32 net rushing yard. That's why, as a team, the rushing yards were so poor because, he sucked the life. No one really did anything in terms of rushing, but he had negative 32 yards. So pretty tough day for those guys.
Brian, is he the only quarterback to play the first 3 games for them? Because I did hear a commentator said, do you think next week they go to a dual do a quarterback, which means that they play two. So I was wondering, have they already played someone else before? And maybe they're
I think Langford has played.
Huh?
I think Langford has played too.
Okay, so they played two quarterbacks in the last couple games.
Mm-hmm.
How did Langford play?
I mean, you're talking about them playing Vandy, and who was the other opponent?
Lane.
Was it Lane?
And Lane. So, so I think, hard to compare because you got the win. And then against Vandy, you're not exactly sure. And even the expectations going into that game were already kind of I'm trying to be politically correct.
Yeah.
When I make the term. You expect almost like you expect
the bar
to
was
lose.
low.
Yeah. The bar was low. So again, I don't think you still get the questions you needed answered when it comes to who you settle with. Even though Casey played this game, is he who you want this offense to be led by?
Can you platoon them?
We don't know yet.
Can you platoon both of them? I've never seen Langford, but can you platoon them? Would that help?
They have some different qualities. You could, but I think it just depends on how you're played, how you defend it. So I think they could. I think they've tried that in the past. But I'm not exactly sure where they want to go offensively with either one of them. Do you want to be a passing team? Because you haven't answered the quarterback question since Akil Glass has left. You really haven't. You had transfers come in. You had, different folks come in. Not coordination issues per se, but yeah, it was, it was just different. And then when you're talking about, trench play, offensive line play in general, that is to be, needs to improve as well. So not sure if you can platoon them yet.
Drastically overnight, that O-line play needs to step up because no matter who you put me at quarterback, I'm about to be 51 in 2 weeks. Without the big fellas up front doing their job, we look like Bryan just put those stats out there. I like I said yesterday, I was like depressed because I was expecting more from both O lines, and I didn't get it. You just like I say, I think Blood's a good quarterback. That brother needs some help. Dooley I think he need to make some changes on the O line. I would take it out the O line coach's hands and redo that O line because we've seen him 3 weeks now. We've covered them and they're not getting it done. So we need some replacement.
And I tell you what, I got to give kudos to BJ Jones. I heard him on another podcast, an actual Southern podcast. He addressed that. He talked about Southern in the past having one of their calling cards be a strong offensive line. And he said that hadn't really happened over the last few years where they could just rely on that O-line to be, just pushers, just dominant, just bullies on that forward wall. So, hey, I think they see it too.
What
question, Jamie, you may want to chime in on this first. Does anybody win the West with a record better than 5-3? Or are we talking about a potential bunch of 4-4 teams and pull out the nerds and the analytics to figure out who wins the tiebreaker in the West this year? Because every team that I've seen in the West is severely flawed, still has major questions after 3 weeks. And I don't see anyone being able to establish themselves in the West. I mean, hell, we said it back in the beginning. If anybody but UAPB wins the West, you would not be surprised. Well, I don't think that's parity anymore. I think that's mediocrity that we're talking about now. We were talking about parity at first. So where in the East, you've got two teams that have separated themselves from each other in Florida A&M and Jackson State. You've got a third team who's right there on the cusp if they can figure out their quarterback play in Alabama State in the East. The West, I can't say that about any of those 6 teams.
Listen, that experienced guy down there in Lorman, I have to lean on him a little bit because of the experience. But you're right, AD. I'm not exactly sure who does what. You do have 5 teams that can win that side of the of the conference. When you're talking about even down to Grambling, I love what they're doing offensively, but I have no idea where their defense is right now. And I think that's something that hadn't been present under the Hugh Jackson era, because, you know, the defense played well last year, or played well in spots, but didn't know where you're going to get your offense from. Now you got a quarterback in Miles Crawley that's come in and kind of giving them a spark, and now we don't know where the defense is. So I'm not exactly sure. PV is interesting to me because, you know, you got Trayshawn Connolly that stepped up with the loss of Andrew Body for a while, and I'm not sure when he's coming back in. But Texas Southern has taken a step back. Yeah, it has taken a step back. PV, you know, even though they had a bad loss, within SWAC play is right there in the thick of things. But you know, Alcorn, I think is right there because good win against McNeese. I think second year in a row they beaten that team, and so they're getting that experience outside of the conference. So coming back in it, I think right now you would have to point them as a team to beat. But you're right. It is anybody's, you know, West to win if they sincerely want to go after it.
Anybody's West to win.
Yeah,
which explains now why 5 people or while 5 schools had first place votes. This would explain it. Everybody, again, supposedly everyone wasn't picking themselves, but 5 schools in the West, 5 schools in the West had a vote.
Yeah.
Big wink. But somebody thought, and maybe now I'm gonna back off of it. Maybe they saw what we're seeing is that anyone could win the West except for Valley. No, I'm sorry. Didn't Valley have first place votes?
They might have voted for themselves.
That was in the East. Yeah, Valley's in the East.
Somebody in the West didn't have a first place vote. Who was it?
Pine Bluff.
Okay,
Pine Bluff.
So yeah, there you go. All right.
But like I say, it's mediocrity, Brian. It's not parity. It is
I'm
strictly mediocrity as of right now.
I can't disagree with you at all. And fortunately, this week, upcoming here, we'll finally get a chance to see a couple of West Division teams play against each other, and maybe we'll start to make sense of what we're seeing and what we're looking at. Coach, coming up for this upcoming weekend, just looking at some of the games ahead going into week 4. We've got the game that I wish would have happened last year. That's Fayetteville State at Virginia Union in the CIAA. You've got Alabama State at Florida A&M. You've got Bethune at Jackson State, Prairie View at Alcorn State, Texas Southern at Grambling State. And Jamie, who knew back when we were talking about our HBCU road trip tour that Allen at Central State, that was a game that that was Drew. Drew circled Allen at Central State as a spotlight game, and who knows? I mean, so that's just some of the games, Coach, that
Central State almost got Tuskegee yesterday.
Yeah.
Central State's a good team. Central State's a good team.
They should have gotten Tuskegee yesterday.
Yeah. So, Coach, we may have to have you take a look at that Fayetteville State Virginia Union game as one of those spotlight games for next week, and then maybe we'll find another good SWAC contest, as there's plenty of them upcoming to watch. How's that sound?
That sounds good, my friend. Let me do some homework, get on it. I'll get with you by the middle of the week.
Gotcha. Go ahead and give the plugs. Let people know where they can find you at on X, Twitter, as it's formerly known as.
Yeah, X. I was like X. Yeah, they can find me at X.
You're like, what?
At Coach at what is my Twitter? At Coach Farasi. Because my Gmail's the same as it's at Coach Farasi.
Yeah.
What is my Twitter? At Coach Farasi, and my Gmail is at Coach. God dang! I mean, there's so much alike. It's like but I'm getting a lot of good reviews, you know. So people out there, they know everything like that. But I think my Twitter is at Coach Farasi.
Coach Farasi, yes, that's what it is.
At Coach Farasi, and then my Gmail is at CoachFarasi@gmail.com. Thank you, Brian. You know, like I said, I knew they were both the same because I try to keep them the same because I got so much going on and everything like that. But I just wanted, I mean, I've been getting a lot of people, you know, contacting me. A lot of O-line coaches been, you know, reaching out to me like, hey, coach, how would you block this? Or had a couple coordinators say, hey, coach, this kind of defense, what would you do in this kind of defense? So I appreciate you guys helping me get my face and my name out there to help these young men out. And hopefully things go my way in a couple months from now. But yeah, Brian, I definitely will do some homework on those games and get with you by the middle of the week to let you know which ones I'll be taking a look at.
There you go.
I apologize about today, you guys. I mean, I don't know what happened, but I'll try to get you taken care of.
You're all good. There's Chuck Hutt. Chuck Hutt follows you on X, so that's what's up.
Thank you, Chuck.
Guys, make sure you guys hit up Coach Farasi. That's at Coach Farasi, Farasi on X. So let's do this. Let's take a break, come back on the other side, and let's squabble a little bit for a very quick moment about the unbeatens. There are a handful of unbeatens, but they're all in the Division II level. So we're gonna parse through those teams, and then also start looking ahead at the upcoming week of games. Tell you what's going on in the picks contest. Your boy, somebody closed the gap. We'll talk about that in a sec and more on the other side. Appreciate you, Coach. Thank you for coming in today.
No problem, brother. Be safe. See y'all next week.
Yes,
all right, appreciate you, Coach.
All right, we'll be back in just a moment, guys.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit. Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio. That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Bryan, A.D, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan, A.D. There's the tweet. Jamie Walker joining us from Jermaine Martin, who says on X, he came to an HBCU for the HBCU experience. If we wanted to play Townsend, I love how he spelled Townsend. Was that an intentional shot? We would have went to UNCG. Jamie.
Hey, Jamie. By the way, before you even say anything, did you get the memo that you guys have a new rival in Elon?
Oh wow!
I mean, for as much as you guys have played Winston-Salem State and Central, I know there's intense rivalry between Elon. It's just a can't miss for Aggie Pride.
You know what? Elon, because it's down the street in Burlington, actually the town is called Elon College, but because it's down the street and so close, I can kind of understand it. Also, when Elon visited East Greensboro, it was packed. I mean, it was one of those things that, you recruit in the same area, especially now that you're in the same conference. They get a lot of the same, local high school talent that they're looking after, especially when you cross over the border in Virginia and in areas like that. So, indirectly it is, it's the turnout for that game is always good as well. It is what people often refer to when it comes to that. But rival, and give it a little minute. Depends on how long we're in the coastal. Let's just put it that way.
So what is Jermaine?
Read between those lines, y'all.
What is Jermaine? Not Jermaine. Jermaine. What is Jermaine referring to, Jamie?
I mean, he's referring to, like, he went off this morning, and he has that right to. Let me first start off by, talking about him, the consummate Aggie who's done a lot, but you also have to realize that he was part of the success and the rebuild. And so, especially in that last year where he was injured. So he's kind of seen the best of times and the rebuilding of times. So he has those opinions. And, there are a lot of fan base, a part of the fan base that share those same sentiments as far as who we played, especially for homecoming. The facts of it is, and my man T-Ball, I sent that to Bryan as well. The fact of the matter is, there hadn't been a team that traveled with their band in over 20 years for homecoming. It's an A&T event. And so it's going to be packed anyway. The environment is going to be crazy anyway, regardless of who we played. So, at the end of the day, it doesn't affect the environment of the greatest homecoming on earth. It does not. But I understand where people may be, especially with the losing going on right now, where people may be, not necessarily liking the environment. But again, when people talked about this move and making the moves to both the Big South and the CAA, I don't think the consideration for where we were going really was a factor, or anyway, especially when you're still playing HBCUs or other HBCUs. When you're talking about those games and you're talking about comparing that to the MEAC, there was still only a few games that sold out. Still only, people, oftentimes folks chime in and say, y'all just gonna lose your attendance and people not coming to the games. And what people don't realize about that is when Dale State came down to Truist, didn't necessarily have the finest look.
Yeah, nobody showed up to watch Dale State.
Morgan State.
Everybody was disguised as seats.
Pretty much. So it wasn't a thing that anybody was worried about the attendance dropping so much that I'm like, oh my God, the sky is falling. It just wasn't those kind of considerations when it came to that. But I think they also knew when those considerations happened that, it wasn't going to be a thing as far as the attendance and both who we play and who we played. Because if you see, Central is still on there. The team that I hated falling off the schedule, quite honestly, was South Carolina State. I hate that we're not playing that game. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. But if you look at the attendance for that game last year, wasn't necessarily the greatest, numbers either. So it's just, a lot of folks, consider the sky falling and things of that nature. But the reality of it is the numbers are generally still good. So
yeah, I would imagine.
So outside of Central, what was the next best attended games for A&T?
Oh, I would beg to say South Carolina State. You know, that school down in Tallahassee when they were in the conference. Was when they were in the MEAC. See, that's what I'm see. There's so much I can say about those that, you know, give those, you know, criticisms and shots. You know what I'm saying? That part too. A&T Roy, yes. Yeah, you know, he can have that compared. You know, Jermaine went to Coastal Carolina beforehand. So coming to get that experience is cool. But those that kind of, you know, have those shots, the reality of it is not as attendance-wise bad as people think it is. In fact, when you add those other factors in with other schools, I think within the Coastal, once they get that conference completely defined and completely together in relation to, unless a school leaves, because there's some rumors that Delaware may be, you know, taking that leap up to FBS. But when you're talking about the teams that play, such as you're going to continue to play Hampton, you're going to continue to play, you know, you're going to continue to play other schools like Norfolk State that you have on the schedule. When you have teams like Elon and Campbell, for that matter, I think, yeah, you have the interest still in the program. The only thing that we need to do, and I speak as an alum, is win. That's the main factor in all of this, is win.
Well,
we need to win.
Let me ask this, and I'm wondering in how all of this is being sold, because I think part of and somebody, I don't know whether it's from the athletic department or maybe the athletic department reaching out to one of the I know there's a couple of A&T driven shows or entities. You know, some of those guys come on our show, even follow us, Dave for one. But is there anybody that's explaining to Aggie Nation, or at least look, I think the one thing you got to do is move. It's hard to divorce yourself from the old MEAC stuff, but instead of trying to divorce yourself, it's saying, hey, we're in a different place. This is the historic nature of this conference. Yes, it was, or is it still the wounds too fresh, or is the history that was made in the MEAC too rich to begin being able to sell what you're playing in? Am I making sense there? Is anybody properly selling to the fan base that, okay, we are now part of the CAA. Let's embrace this. Let's show up and support our student athletes who are representing our university.
That is a brilliant question. One that goes back to the days of the MEAC, to be totally honest with you, as far as attendance is concerned. So no, I don't think the selling of the conference, the selling of the reasoning of moving conferences is oftentimes talked about. But I don't think the fan base, because you have an ever-changing fan base, and I think it takes a while to acclimate them into who you're playing, especially considering you're still playing HBCUs. I think Winston-Salem State is getting back on the schedule. I think as long as you have Central, you can get a Winston-Salem State, you can get maybe, and you're playing Hampton, I think it'll be just fine. I think you're selling the conference. You're selling what I've seen more than anything in BlueDeathValley.com. Got to give those guys props for oftentimes telling the story of A&T athletics. They're right there in Greensboro. They talk about the happenings, talking about being able to have linear rights. So they talk about the highlights of why the jump was made and the highlights of some things going on within that are totally a feature of the CAA, things of that nature. You're getting those types of like, okay, I understand. When you have those that are nostalgic about times in both the CIAA and the MEAC, that's a little harder sell. I'll only speak for myself when it comes to A&T and how I feel about it, and that is this: I'm nostalgic of the MEAC. I enjoy HBCU on HBCU football. I just do. I enjoy it more than I enjoy playing, other conferences. I just do. I cover, we talk about the D2s. I cover D2 football, and so I enjoy that brand. I do, but I understand when it comes to the mission and understand the people involved and what they want to do and what the goals are for the school athletically and where they want to be. I understand the jump.
Where do they?
I understand. I think there's an eventual jump to FBS, to be perfectly honest with you. I think more of control of marketing, of money, of media, and things of that nature going as well. I also think football-wise, I think playoff position was one of those factors in being involved in the NCAA playoffs. I definitely think that's it. And that is the main point that goes in with when it comes to me. Now, this is, like I said, this is Jamie. This is Jamie talking. When it comes to the school saying they want to, solidify their position in that and increase everything going on and the money that's being involved in upgrading the facilities and things of that nature, I think, I understand the move. I can't determine whether I like it yet because for me, it's cut and dry. Win wherever you go. If you're going to put the money to go win, if you're putting the dollars to it, you're putting the coaching staffs to it, you're doing everything you can to win, I have no problem with you taking that risk because eventually in the way that football and the way that conferences are going about everything now, who's to say we're going to be in there forever? You know what I'm saying? There's always rumors of, doing this, doing that, and, all of those things. But yeah, I think, it just depends.
Go ahead, Drew.
Now, let me ask this. Does the fact that, let's be real, A&T has been in 3 conferences in the last 5 years, been a part of 3 conferences in the last 5 years, and there's the rumor or the thought out there that there may be another move forthcoming in the next couple of years or within the next decade. We'll just take it out that far. Does the fact that the lack of identity hurt the perception of A&T? And then let's just think about the students on campus, not the student athletes, but the students being able to, I guess, deal with the culture because you've gone from there are some students who may have just graduated from A&T or maybe getting ready to graduate from A&T that have been a part of all 3 of these conferences. So does that kind of, influence anything? And down the line, when those students look to become donors and, alumni donors, do you think that may affect how they give because they don't know that identity that their school has or is trying to establish?
No.
If I'm making sense with what I'm asking you, Jamie.
No. I think you make it perfect sense. No, I don't. And the reason I don't is I don't think conference affiliation is a thing that people think about in terms of whether or not the stability of the athletic program is there. I think if you win, I think it takes care of itself. But I think when it comes to those nostalgic things as far as playing Central, Winston-Salem, if you get those few teams in, if you're still able to play those few teams, I think it gives you the best of both worlds because the SWAC has this rich tradition of, being around for so many years and having those rivalries. And, I've heard and been around, the Dr. Cavilles and so often, many people that have been SWAC folks for so many years and been in this conference as students and things of that nature. and heard those things. I've even heard, the likes of Stephen J. Gaither talk about, because he's a CIAA guy, talk about the perspective of those teams going from one conference to another. So progress has always been within their mindset in relation to what they thought progress was, at least. So I don't think, as long as you can continue to scratch the itch of we're playing HBCUs, we can beat Central, play those Centrals, play those Winston-Salem States. I think that's the ideal. I think everything will be fine as far as I perceive it right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna leave it on this. A&T is a microcosm of what is happening at the FBS level, with teams bouncing around, reestablishing identity, you could possibly even say losing identity, as USC has been a part of the Pac-8, Pac-10, and Pac-12 for over 100 years, and now they're going to be in the Big Ten. So A&T is just a microcosm of the shift that's happening in college athletics themselves. It just happens to be there's an HBCU involved in this shift of this microcosm.
Absolutely. I think, when we talk about conference churning, when we're talking about positioning yourself better financially, I just think, those kinds of things are occurring. And how much do you balance tradition with, this new wave of whatever coming or whatever's there is coming?
It's tradition versus finance. Let's be real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's call it what it is. It's tradition versus finance. And tradition doesn't pay the bills, unfortunately. And a lot of schools who are waking up and realizing that this mortgage on this house is due, the car note is due, so I've got to do something else to create income, even residual income. And that's why you see a lot of this conference churning and everything else, these media rights deals, et cetera, because they want to either to sustain their quality within their institution, or to increase the quality of the product that they're offering at the institution. And moving to other conferences has seemed to help these institutions that are moving around for the most part.
And I still think one of the best move that FAMU and Bethune-Cookman did was go to the SWAC. I think it was brilliant. I think it was absolutely brilliant. But for some reason, A&T was the only school that left a MEAC. A&T was the only school that left.
That's because that's because we moved around the corner. We moved to the next day. We're still within the zip code.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all didn't even move out to the suburbs. Y'all moved to the country.
Move to the next county. Move to the next county over.
Yeah, y'all moved to a whole nother county. At least we in the same zip code.
I got
all
you.
Right. Here's the list of winless HBCU teams. Obviously, A&T falls into that category. We've also got South Carolina State and Delaware State from the MEAC. Texas Southern is the only SWAC team that's winless, as they've recently taken a pair of bad beats. Talk about a team going in opposite direction from where we all thought they were going. So that's it. So just 4 of the 21 FCS schools are still looking for their first win. At the under D1 level, Division II level even, we've got Livingston, Shaw, and St. Aug from out of the CIAA South. We've got Clark, Edward Waters, Lane, and Morehouse out of the SIC. And then Lincoln, Missouri of the – are they still in the MIAA? Possibly. Still in the MIAA. Anyway,
that's got to be a misprint. Got to be mistaken. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. All right, let's go to the unbeaten teams. This is the interesting list. Obviously, The last unbeaten in the FCS level was North Carolina Central. They took it on the chin big time at UCLA. $700,000 paycheck plus the band. So it wasn't like it was $700 including the band. It was $700 plus the band. So, congratulations, Central. Hopefully y'all are able to.
That'd be close to $1 million check.
Yeah, hopefully athletics is able to hold on to some of those funds and do something with it. Big time payday for a big time beatdown. Unbeaten in you got what? Go ahead.
Yeah, man.
Go ahead.
You know what? I've heard. Oh man, it brings up the age old question, and I've heard people talk about this, but is it worth it?
Yeah.
Because I saw that come up on the within the Twitter Spaces. Is that check worth the? Is it worth being to a degree demoralized? And I know my man Joshua Sims, talks about all the time, other teams put their pants on like everybody else. But at the same time, and you shouldn't be afraid, and you shouldn't be afraid of anything. But is that really serving, besides the monetary purpose, going out there and just taking that check? Like, is it worth it at this point?
Well, and then UCLA, I'm reading here, obviously, they put 35 points up in the first quarter, which, that's efficient beyond all measure. The fact that you're putting up 35 points in a quarter, and I don't think any of those were any of those defensive touchdowns. I don't think any of them were defensive touchdowns. I mean, UCLA got a chance to see every quarterback that they have on scholarship. All 5 of them got a chance to get in the contest. And I don't think UCLA is one of those teams that I don't even know what UCLA's record is. I don't know if UCLA is one of those schools that they're unbeaten 3-0. So I don't know. Maybe, nobody's talking about them. Although they play, Coastal's no longer a FCS. So they played Coastal, they played San Diego State. They played their proper tune-up games before they start getting into, conference play in the Pac. But yeah, for Central though, we'll see what the hangover is for them. Okay, so that leaves the following 3-0 unbeaten teams. Out of the SIC, we've got 4 of them. You've got Miles. No, check that. Miles is no longer unbeaten. I'm sorry. You see, that was a Freudian slip. The Freudian slip. Yeah, see, I know somebody, Kelvin, will probably get at me on that one. So we got 5 teams now. Look at that. See, I just knocked one off the list. 5 teams, 3 of them in the SIC. You got Tuskegee at 3-0. Benedict gave up their first touchdown of the season. They are 3-0. Allen University had to come from behind in big-time fashion to win as well. Over in the CIAA, it's the Virginia schools. Virginia State, Virginia Union, both 3-0. All right. Since it's 5, you know what I'm going to ask you now? Personal poll time. Who is your top 5 in the under D1, as we would normally call it, level here among the remaining unbeaten HBCUs? Let's start with our guest, Mr. Walker.
I'm going to go at 5. I'm going to go Virginia State. 4, I would probably say Union. Let me see. Who we missing? 3. Who we got left? Well, you know what? I probably should have started at 1. So I'm going to just go and skip around. Number 1, Benedict. Okay. Number 2, Tuskegee.
Okay.
Let me see. Who am I missing?
Allen, Virginia State, Virginia Union.
Oh, let me reverse that. Allen at 5. Allen at 5. You got to get them considered. Like, they're just good. Allen at 5. I would say Virginia State 4. Tuskegee 3. Union 2. And Benedict 1.
Okay. AD, what's your 5 look like?
Let me see. Allen, Benedict, Tuskegee, Virginia State, and Union are my 5 teams, right?
That's your 5, yes.
No. I'm saying those are the 5 teams that are undefeated, right?
Yes. That's the 5. Yes, that's the 5. Tuskegee, Benedict, Allen, Virginia State, Virginia Union.
I've got to go. And for me, with the chalk victories by Virginia State and Virginia Union this past Saturday, what I'm debating is Allen's victory enough to move ahead of one of those 2 teams? Because Virginia State went with chalk this past week. Virginia Union went chalk. They were supposed to be Livingstone. They were supposed to be St. Aug. The big question is, well, if we get that down the line, we'll talk about that one coming up down the line. I am going to go State 5, Allen 4, Union 3, then Tuskegee, and then Benedict is the hands down number 1 team right now. No doubt about that. Although, and I'm going to be honest, I'm really thinking about bumping Union up ahead of Tuskegee, because Tuskegee has won. Tuskegee had to hold on to beat Fort Valley in week 1, and they survived Central State on yesterday. So I'm going to flip that. I'm going to put Union at 2, drop Tuskegee to 3 because of that. Although Tuskegee has the wins, I think Union's victories have been a lot more impressive. I mean, heck, Union got 3 blowout victories, so I'm going to go with that and move Union to 2, drop Tuskegee to 3.
I think you guys have. Look, I respect your opinions. Obviously, I think you're ranking the wrong Virginia school high. I really do. I'm going okay. I'm going Benedict 1, but my 2 is Virginia State. Virginia State went on the road, beat Norfolk State. They beat Tusculum, who's a top 75 Division II team. A better opponent than anybody that Virginia Union has played so far. And so, I would,
of course, St. Aug.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, Tuskegee and Union, I mean, I'd probably go Union 3, Tuskegee 4, Allen 5. But I think I'm just going off of performance this season. I'm giving an extra check mark to the team that beat an FCS opponent on the road. And, and
that's a valid point.
And I think that's my slight edge of Virginia State over Tuskegee and over Virginia Union, and look at what was Union's score over this past weekend. I was just looking at it here on Auditin from last week. Against who they play last week?
They played Shaw last week. They played Livingstone this week.
Yeah, against Livingston. That was, if I'm not mistaken, that was Fayetteville State who had the close game. No, Union played a close game. It was an 8-point, only a 28-20 victory. While, I mean, look, Virginia State just wiped the floor with their opponents. So yeah, that's sort of my top 5. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that shakes out. All right, before we get into talking about week 4 and the picks, any other interesting notes or tidbits from the past weekend of games that we didn't touch on, that we didn't talk about. I'm kind of just looking at the scores. I know Fayetteville State had a tight game against Lincoln, PA, 20-17. Fayetteville State, close ball game against Edward Waters, 34-31. Thought that was pretty interesting.
Bryan, you haven't hit the elephant in the room.
What's that?
Allen, Kentucky State. And
Allen, Kentucky State. Yeah. All right. Let's mention that because again, I didn't see it. Haven't seen it. You
say you saw it, Jamie?
You have the box score. You have the box score and the stats pulled up on that game.
Yeah. Walk us through it while I pull up the box scores, because I had the box score up earlier.
Put the
I mean, really, it came down to Kentucky State primarily on defense and special teams built up a lead up to 30-7. You're talking about a return kick. I want to say it was an interception. Just wasn't going right. The defense actually kept. I think the offense for Kentucky State only scored one time against that Allen defense. But what ended up happening was that Allen offense just absolutely just flipped the switch, probably with 9 minutes left in the game, and just took over. David Wright throwing the ball all over the yard again. Bo Harrington, those receivers on the outside, they were able to just get back in the game, and the defense just continued to play well. So, yeah, man. I mean, that's generally it, and was able to get into the end zone in that last quarter.
Were you able to find the box score numbers there, Drew?
Give me just a sec. My internet all of a sudden decided to buffer while I was pulling up this stuff. Here we go. Just going through the recap quickly. 10th ranked Allen University football team registered the largest comeback in school history, rallying from 23 points down in the fourth quarter to reel off 27 unanswered points in a stunning victory over Kentucky State. Sophomore quarterback David Wright threw 5 touchdown passes on the night, including 4 in the fourth quarter, to help Allen to the thrilling win. On the day, Wright threw for 411 yards, 5 touchdowns on 30 of 53 passing with 2 interceptions. So just kind of looking at some of these stats. Allen outgained Kentucky State 462 to 211, 411 to 101 passing. Kentucky State won the battle on the ground 110 to 51. A lot of penalties in this game. Kentucky State with 14 of them, Bryan, for 147. Allen with 10 for 95 yards. Allen won the time of possession 31 minutes to 31-24 to 28-36. So Allen on the day 5 of 13 on third downs versus Kentucky State, who was 2 of 13 on third downs. So, and in that fourth quarter, Allen scored at the 11:11 mark, the 9:07 mark, the 4:07 mark, and with 38 seconds remaining in the ball game.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the drive chart here. Kentucky State in the fourth quarter, they had a fumble, which the fumble then turned around, resulted in a touchdown 1 play later. Then the next series, they punted, basically 3 and out. Allen drove 12 plays, 70 yards, scored. Next possession, Kentucky State, 3 plays and out on a punt. All Allen did was march down the field, the game-winning drive, 6 plays, 62 yards, and scored a touchdown. And then in Kentucky State's last offensive possession, while they were driving down the field, throws an interception. And that's kind of how it rolls. And it's like next minute you know, you're like, just you're shaking your head trying to figure out how did we lose that game. So yeah, so that makes for a pretty interesting upcoming schedule in the SIC. Let me, as I pull up the standings within the conference. Obviously, now it should be noted here within the conference. Okay, Tuskegee, Benedict, Fort Valley State are all sitting at 2-0, having played 2 conference games thus far. And then you have Allen, Miles, Savannah State, Albany State, all with 1 win under their belt. So this is the week where it all starts to get really interesting. And in both of these, in the CIAA and the SIC, as if they weren't starting their conference play last week, they're starting it this week. So, all right, let's quickly look at
speaking of
our picks.
Speaking of conference play,
yes.
I was going to say, speaking of conference play and upcoming this week, while you've got some of the FCS teams starting to take their bye weeks this particular week, Brian, we actually have a homecoming this week. As West Virginia State hosts Glenville. West Virginia State hosts Glenville State for homecoming this week.
Oh, that's right. All right. Well, that's an early homecoming, but congratulations. West Virginia State currently 1-2 or 2-1, excuse me. 2-0 in the Mountain East. Glenville State definitely going to be that early test for them. Classics that are upcoming this weekend. The Willard Bailey Classic at Virginia Union. Of course, that's the big showdown against Fayetteville State. It's also the Hall of Fame game. You've got the family weekend, Greek and student organization night at Virginia State as they host Livingston. South Carolina State faculty and staff, agricultural land grant, Garnet Day, all that going on as they host Citadel. I know it's a Hall of Fame day for Florida A&M as they host Alabama State. You've got the W.C. Gordon Classic. Jackson State has finally got a home game. Hey, man, I know Coach T.C. Taylor is so happy after living in a suitcase for the last 4 weeks. So they finally get a play game against Bethune-Cookman. Alcorn hosts Prairie View High School Day, Community Day. The Circle City Classic. Interesting road for North Carolina Central, traveling cross-country to go to California. Then they go to Indianapolis this weekend playing Mississippi Valley State. That's a MEAC SWAC showdown. The Coastal City HBCU Classic taking place in Brunswick, Georgia between Albany State and Savannah State. It's High School Day at Edward Waters as they host Morehouse. Agricultural Day for Kentucky State as they host Fort Valley. Military Appreciation Game at Elizabeth City State. They host Shaw. Health Awareness Day at Bowie as they host St. Aug. And then, of course, we even have a Thursday night game between everyone's favorite new son, UAPB, going up against everybody's former favorite son, Alabama A&M. That game will be on ESPNU, 7:30 p.m. Central.
That's going to be a dog game.
No. Y'all, some of y'all love UAPB, so y'all gonna be excited about that one. You better be. Okay, picks contest.
How many times do you think the bark is going to be played before that game against UAPB?
Hey,
ESPN is going to play.
If I'm coach,
shout out to Bo Carter for capturing that.
I'm not barking at anybody this week. I'm just saying.
But ESPN already got the clip.
Well, but that was another week. I'm not talking. I'm just talking. I'm talking this week. All right. Just trying. Oh, I actually went 4-1. A few folks in our picks contest didn't get their picks in. So I don't know. The picks from last week are all over the place. Shout out to Radomir and Keith. Fangs up. Both of them went 5-0. I went 4-1 on our FCS picks contest. So again, run your pool. That's where we've got that. Drew is no comment on Drew. Noticeably missing. Sorry, yeah. All right, but in our own personal pick 5 here on this show, Drew went 1-4. I went 3-2 to close the gap. Now we are both tied at 8-7 after 3 weeks of picking contest. No, Morehouse hasn't played a home game yet either.
Man, Morehouse are the road warriors.
8 times. Morehouse is not home until mid.
Some of these football teams out here acting like HBCU basketball
October
program,
14th,
playing their whole month, the first month of the season on the road.
October 14th is their first home game against Miles.
Man, that's the midway point of the season. At that point, what is that? Week 5 or 6?
Yep, I think they have the last 3. No, 2 games. I think they only have 2 home games.
Yeah, they have 2 home games. Week 7, week 9. They got Miles week 7. They got Kentucky State week 9.
What's the reason for Morehouse only playing 2 home games this year?
They're in 3 classics.
Oh man, chasing them money.
The game against Union.
And you want that nice turf, and you want that nice track redone. I guess you got to pay for it, right?
And then, of course, the Tuskegee Morehouse Classic.
Yeah, you got to pay for it, right? You got to find a way to pay for it somehow, some way. Jamie, your spotlight game was the when we did our greatest road trip. You spotlighted the Alabama State at FAMU game. You still think that's the game you would thinking about it right now? Is that still the game you would love to go travel to among all the others this weekend?
After that L, Alabama State took the Miles. No, but I still think it'll be good, especially after the ending last year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think they'll be up for this game. So yeah, I actually would like to see it.
Okay. Drew had the Allen at Central contest, which after seeing what Central did to Tuskegee, pushing them to the brink, that actually now looks like a pretty good game, Drew.
Yeah, it really looks like a good game considering what Allen has done to the rest of their opponents this year. You know, that game was when I picked that game back in, what was that, July or August? I think I just picked that game trying to make sure I had representation from as many teams as possible because, you know, we said we weren't going to pick teams twice. And little did I know at that point in time, this is a game that should be on everybody's watch list right now.
Yeah. Central, what's Central's record? 1-2?
Yeah. Central is 1-2. They defeated Valley, lost to Dayton and Tuskegee, but Central could easily be 2-1.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Jammer, you're gonna be a brag. Okay, make sure we see you this weekend. This should be good. Okay, let's do our picks for this week. We will.
What was your game, Brian?
Oh, I'm sorry. My game was the Fayetteville State at Virginia Union game. That's the game I'm on. Of course, you know that game should have been the CIAA championship game. It will be a 6 p.m. game under the lights in Richmond. Fort Valley State coming off of or Fayetteville State, excuse me, coming off of they were pushed by Lincoln. So we'll see. This is the second weekend of the North versus South in the CIAA, and I think this is the key spotlight game for this weekend. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Let's go through picks here. Let's start with that one. Fayetteville State at Virginia Union. Who do you like in that contest, Drew?
Well, in this particular contest, this game is probably more important for Union than it is for Fayetteville State when it comes to the conference standing. Fayetteville State can afford to lose this game and still come out of the South because there's really only one other team in the South that could possibly challenge them right now, and that's probably Johnson C. Smith. And I don't think Johnson C. Smith is quite at that level yet where they're going to be an upper tier in the CIAA South. I think Johnson C is the top of the second tier, but Fayetteville is in the class by themselves in the South. For Virginia Union, though, should they drop this particular ball game with Bowie State and Virginia State there, you cannot afford to lose any of these three crossover games. And let's be real. Fayetteville State has not beat any of those top three teams in the North in about 40 and 10 years. So it's been forever. I don't think that it's going to start. Look, Fayetteville State, either the North was that good when Lincoln gave Fayetteville State a run last week, or Lincoln is much improved. And because of what I saw in that particular game, for the little bit I was able to see, I have to lean with the Union on this particular matchup.
Okay. How about you, Jamie?
Oh, wow. It's kind of easy for me. Union. Got to go Union. Union has proven that that rushing attack is still prolific even without Jada Byers. So I think even though Fayetteville State has played a tough schedule early on with the likes of Lenore Ryan and UNC Pembroke. So, they're tested, but I don't think they're the same team as last year. So I'm going to go Union.
Okay, I'm going Union as well. So we'll clean sweep it there with Union at home. Allen versus Allen traveling to Central State. Allen, Central State loses a close one. Allen comes from behind to win a close one. This game is being played at Central State. Does Allen have enough to get it done? And this time get it done without having to come from behind by 4 touchdowns to win it. Well, what say you, Jamie? We'll start with you on this one.
All right, repeat that game for me.
Allen at Central State. Allen at Central State.
Listen. No defense is sold separately. You know what, man? Because those listen, I would love to be at that game. Just the offense that's going to be played in that game is going to be phenomenal. You know what? This might be, and you talking about two of my favorite coaches too. Talk about Kevin Porter. You talking about Coach Keaton, man. Ooh, this is tough. I know I'm supposed to be quick. I'm gonna go Allen. I'm gonna lean Allen this game.
How about you, Drew?
Look, if you're in Columbia, South Carolina, you don't need Columbia to be another. I guess, what was that Super Bowl play that between New England and Atlanta when New England came back in the fourth quarter? And,
yeah, it was in Houston. It was in Houston.
That was cold.
It was in Houston.
That was cold.
But if you're an Allen fan, you can't see that 2 weeks in a row. Allen, get up, stay up. I'm leaning on Allen. I got to ride with one of my favorite athletic directors, Josh Cox and Coach Keaton and all those guys over there.
Going with Allen as well. I'll go with the better team. Yeah, I'm going with Allen. Now I don't, I say that. I say that with sort of a kind of sheepish. Are they really? I don't know. So I'm still waiting.
They got the best player on the field on their team. How about that?
Thank you. At the end of the day, they got the best quarterback on the field. I'm rolling with that. Let me go one other Division II game. Albany State at Savannah State. Drew, you're first. And that game is a neutral site in Brunswick, Georgia, at the Coastal City.
That's in Brunswick, Georgia.
Class. Yeah. So it's not
had the opportunity to actually work that game and to be at that game, but Albany State still hasn't shown me anything. I got to go with the Tigers.
Drew's going Savannah State. All right. What about you, Jim?
I think Albany State got their first win this weekend.
Yep.
And maybe they're turning the corner. I looked at the Savannah State Clark game, and Jaden Adams, quarterback for Savannah State, played well, but they scored their points basically in the first half, and really wasn't much offense in the second half. Clark could have actually could have stolen that game down at Theodore A. Wright. This is tough. This is tough because I'm not exactly sure what Albany State is yet. The cupboard wasn't bare, but implementing, Coach Gray's, system and just everything they want to do, I'm not sure if they've gotten everything together yet. But Savannah State doesn't look completely 100 either. This would be a pick 'em for real. I'm gonna go Albany State.
Okay. That's funny. For some reason I had you picking Albany State. I don't know why. I thought that's what you were gonna do. I'm gonna bet on my guy. I'm gonna bet on Coach Gray. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna keep that. I just looked at, they played a close game against Valdosta State, lost by 4 or 5 points. I think that's the team going in the right direction. Now that they got a dub under their belt. All right, let's go into some. I didn't see any games in the MEAC that kind of caught my eye, so these are going to be all SWAC games here. These last couple games. Let's start with the Thursday night game. Alabama A&M, UAPB at Alabama A&M, 7:30 Eastern kickoff on ESPNU. Jamie, you lead it off.
I'm gonna go A&M. I think they are desperate, and I don't necessarily like desperate situations, but I'm gonna go with the home team. So yeah, I'm gonna go with them. Although UAPB is a dangerous squad right now.
Stop it. Not you two. Go ahead. Drew.
A&M by default. The reason I'm saying by default, short week at home tends to favor the home team. So I'm leaning A&M on this particular game.
You know what? The last time I think A&M played a Thursday game, it was not well attended. Now,
this one won't be either.
And so that's where I was going. I thank you for putting those words out there. I was struggling to say it. With that said, though,
but no Thursday HBCU game is well attended, Brian. So I'm not taking a shot at Alabama A&M because I remember Alabama State played a Thursday night game when I was living in that area. It looked worse than the high school game does when they play high school games in their stadium. So it's to be expected. It's going to be students and a couple of locals. That's it. Nobody's coming from out of town on a Thursday night game.
A couple of locals, nice. A couple of locals in a big community like Huntsville. You think you might be able to get a few more than a couple of locals. I will go with
that when you got Thursday night high school football going on at the same time in a lot of these cities.
Now there's Thursday night high school. My God, can't high school?
Oh, in Alabama they do. In Alabama, especially those larger metro cities, because they tend to share stadiums. Yeah, there are games Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
All right, I thought you were going to say because of official shortages or something.
No, that's exactly what I was about to say in relation to Georgia. Yeah.
Oh, Georgia do it because of the official.
That helps.
Yeah, okay. Official shortage. Yeah.
I'm going UAPB.
Yeah, but it's a combination of those two things. It's the shared stadiums plus the official shortage.
All right, y'all, folks have been Kelvin and others. Y'all been having me drinking the UAPB Kool-Aid. I think the last time I picked UAPB, they lost. Let me look back here. Did I pick them? Yes, I picked them against Tennessee State, and they lost. So we'll try it one more time and see. Then I picked against them, and then they won. So I don't know how I feel about UAPB. I'm like 0-2 with them. So we'll see. Maybe this is a good sign for Alabama A&M. Prairie View at Alcorn, 2 Western Division teams. Who is what? Alcorn got the big win against McNeese State this past weekend to finally get a win. Prairie View hasn't won since their week 1 game in the Labor Day Classic. Who you got, Drew? Alcorn is the home team.
I've got to go with Fred McNair on this one. I think that victory was key into getting momentum. Prairie View coming off another disappointing performance, although it was against SMU, but is that win over Texas Southern looking as good as it did week 1 now in week 4, week 3? I don't think so, considering what we've seen with Texas Southern, and of course we know Texas Southern doesn't have Andrew Body right now. That win is not as impressive as it was at the time that it occurred. Alcorn at home.
Jamie, what do you got?
Wow. I said earlier, I trust in Fred. I trust, so I'm gonna stick with it. Alcorn.
Alcorn. All right. All right. That's a clean sweep for Alcorn. Texas Southern travels to Grambling. 2 really bad beatings Texas Southern has taken after giving away the Labor Day Classic at the opening of the season. Still no word on if Andrew Body will be back. He didn't play these past 2 weekends. I don't know how you look at this game, but Jamie, who do you like? Texas Southern, Grambling.
You know what? I'm gonna go Grambling. I think Texas Southern's defense is a little better than expected, I'm gonna go Grambling here.
Drew, what do you got?
Here's the question I have. If Andrew Body doesn't come back for this conference game, you've got homecoming next week, and then you've got a bye week. Is Andrew Body's injury, is he injured that seriously where it may be better for him to consider redshirting the remainder of this season?
Yes.
Just something to throw out there.
That's a great question.
Could that be the case? Because if he doesn't play against Grambling and they should lose this game against Grambling, you really don't want to bring him back for Lincoln, especially since you got the bye week the next week. If he's going to come back, it's going to be down in October where you've got the rest of the SWAC schedule. But 0-2 is not bad in the West as it would be if you're in the East. But I don't and Dr. Kavia hopefully can shed some light on this later on this week. Nobody, no chance. It's that simple. I'm not counting on Body right now. I'm going with the G-Man.
Look at Drew with the nice headline. I think you get 4 games to play. you get 4 games to play. So I would tend to think that.
But no, it's the first 4. It's the first 4. This would be week 4. So this would be the last game that he could play before he could take a red shirt.
Really? Okay. That's interesting. I thought it was any 4 games.
It's the first 4 games of the season.
Okay. So that's a good point. If he doesn't play this weekend, you might want to just shut it down. You might want to shut him down. Let him fully heal and get healthy, and then go from there. So with that said, I'm going Grambling. Another clean sweep here. We're all going Grambling. All right. The last one is Alabama State traveling to FAMU. This was on the list of Jamie's big game. So Jamie, who do you like? Alabama State traveling to FAMU. FAMU has a 16-game home winning streak, the second longest in FCS Who you got?
I saw that, man. I saw that. I said, okay, I guess they do brag different.
Yeah. You like that, right?
Yeah. Yada yada yada. I said that thing about desperate teams earlier, and I think after that loss to to Miles, we they're definitely a desperate squad. But I'm gonna go FAMU. I'm gonna go FAMU, being that they're playing at home, and especially after that slow West Florida start, like that was. I started to call you to see if you was okay.
I was there. I wouldn't.
Look, if the third quarter had not started the way it started, Jamie, yes, the panic mode would have been the panic button. It was in my hand. I was holding it like this, and I was like this, and then we just took off in the third quarter. And I said, "Okay, I'm gonna put this thing back. We might be okay." But yes, trust me, the panic button was out.
So yeah, I'm gonna go because I'm just not quite sure about Alabama State's offense. To be honest with you, to match Wits, their defense is phenomenal. Please don't get me wrong. But I think there are more offensive weapons for FAMU. Musa has to play well, though. Musa definitely has to play well, or he could get hurt. I mean, that defense comes after you. FAMU, they should win this. I won't say easily, but it should be comfortable.
Drew, what do you like? Who do you like?
There was a Junior Meritovich sighting in Tallahassee in this past game.
Yes.
And where I was at, there were a few people who were happy to see Junior under center or in the gun, more likely. Because, yes, the Moose had a phenomenal third quarter, going 11 for 12 in the third quarter. But if you discount that third quarter, there were people asking questions about is Moose really the player of the year, the preseason player of the year in the conference. So look, FAMU had a time with the West Florida running game, especially in that first half. But once FAMU got up on West Florida, they had to abandon their running game. But West Florida was able to run the ball against Florida A&M anytime they chose to run the game. We know Alabama State loves to run the game, and because of that, like James said, this game is going to be closer than it should be. But FAMU at home is a tough bill for anybody to come into FAMU at home and beat them. You know, there was just shy of 18,000 there for the West Florida game. I think we're going to be north of 20 for this particular game, considering the proximity of Alabama State to Tallahassee. And I know Alabama State travels fairly decently, especially to Tallahassee. But one thing, FAMU, you got to open the ticket gates on the west side, boy.
See?
Talking trash. Exactly.
Yep. Traveled down the road. Look, all I'm going to say is the belt is coming out Wednesday. He traveled down the road that he shouldn't have started on, and he got sniped. See, that's what happens, Drew. You know that. See, don't mess around. But I think what he was trying to say is there were a lot of people who didn't get in to the stadium for the pre-game ceremonies or even the kickoff. So that's what he's really trying to say. So obviously, I'm not gonna pick because y'all know who I got. So I'll let you know about the point spread and everything later. But he did bring up a question, Jamie, that got me looking into the stats real quick. Went in and looked at the SWAC stats to say who has played like the SWAC player of the year. I mean, I know it's just 3 weeks, but who has really impressed? And so I go and look at the statistics in passing in this 3 games. Surprisingly, in terms of total yards, Musa is averaging 263 a game, leading the conference over Harold Blood, who's averaging 229 a game. Efficiency rating, Musa, 146.3, which is just barely above Jason Brown, who's at 146.1. Completions, Jason Brown, now he's played 4 games, obviously, followed by Harold Blood and then Jeremy Musa. Completion percentage. Now, Jason Brown is at 66.7. Demetrius Davis at 65.9. That's probably the one thing where Musa's, he's not above 60%, still floating at about 58.7. And so there's a few other guys who have a better completion percentage. Now, go look at the running backs. Do you know any idea who's leading the conference in rushing?
Irv Mulligan?
He is, Irv Mulligan. Now, he's played 4 games, but 322 yards. His average is second behind Jonas Davis of UAPB, who's averaging 94.3 a game. Mulligan averaging 80.5 a game. In terms of receiving, how about receiving? Let's see what might be the key stat in receiving here. You got a couple of guys here, Kissy and Johnson of Alabama State with 16 receptions. He's only played 2 games, already leading the league. Yeah, Duke.
Go
Miller
ahead, Keyshawn. Yeah, it's Keyshawn.
It's
But
Keyshawn.
yeah,
Okay.
Keyshawn.
Okay,
Mhm.
Keyshawn Johnson. Duke Miller with 16 receptions over 4 games, though. Cameron Young of Alabama A&M with 16 receptions over 3 games. Rico Powers leading the wide receivers, of course. With 309 touchdown receptions. Keyshawn right there at 3. Rico at 2. Average per completion. Actually, I don't know. What would you let's see, which receptions per game? Keyshawn's averaging 8 a game. So I would say, if you say, hey, who's looking like the offensive player of the conference, I think you can go to somebody like Keyshawn Johnson or Rico Powers. You could go in terms of quarterbacks. You'd probably say Jeremy Musa and Jason Brown. Rushing, you might say Jonas Davis or Irv Mulligan. So I think those are the guys that I think are right now putting up the statistic numbers that everybody ought to kind of be taking a peek at. I just thought I'd throw that out there because I still maintain that the guy who's probably should be under consideration is my man from Hampton. But in terms of overall, who's looking like the baddest dude right now in HBCU football is that guy. But and then maybe I'd go Allen or not Wright of Allen. David Wright of Allen is probably the guy who's right there. Okay, Drew's back, but guess what? It's about time to go. Jamie, any final thoughts or words you want to share with the people before we shut it down?
Yes, Aggie Nation. I know that right now we're not looking good, but keep the faith. We're gonna find some scoring from somewhere because we can't score the ball right now. But just keep the faith, and then just overall, man. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but no, I'm saying that seriously. But you know what I mean. The HBCU D2s, man, are absolutely playing phenomenal football. Both conferences, if you look from top to bottom, you got a lot of competitive spots, and I'm curious how everything's gonna shape up when it comes to the playoff race. So curious to see what that looks like. But right now, the early returns looking really good. So I'm curious and happy to see what's going on within that space.
All right. The Aggies have who this upcoming weekend?
I want to say we're on a bye.
You're on a bye. Okay.
I think.
You can't
Yeah.
lose. So that's a good thing. You
You
can't
know what I'm
lose.
saying?
You cannot lose. So there you go. That's a win. What do you got, Drew? Any final thoughts, words?
I'm not sure how my connectivity is on you guys' end.
You're good.
Am I good?
You are good.
All right. All right. I don't know what's going on with my internet. I'm actually running off my hotspot on my phone right now. But couple interesting anniversaries last week. Obviously, we know last Monday was the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. And then last Wednesday was the anniversary of the death of one of the greatest rappers of all time, Tupac Shakur, passed away on September 13th in 1996. And I remember where I was when I heard the news that he had passed away. I was in Tallahassee, Florida, riding down Appalachian Parkway to be exact, Brian, if you remember those days. But just thinking about things such as that, and this weekend I laid to rest members of our family. So a lot of potentially bad times for people last week, a lot of bad times for me on a personal level, and just thinking how precious life is and enjoying life and the things in life, and just treasuring that I have the opportunity to do what I would like to do on a daily basis, and every Sunday here with you guys here on the Sports Wrap. Not only you guys and Coach Farasi and Dr. Cavill and everyone else, but just the people who take time out there Sundays to join us and to tune in to us. Just made me really step back and appreciate some of the finer things in life over the last 7 days.
Well said, Drew. Well said. Great
Absolutely.
thoughts. I echo those sentiments as well. It's I think we are very blessed and fortunate, even in the struggle and at times when it feels really hard. If I'm gonna struggle or be in the struggle, at least I'm doing something I love doing. So we have that going for us, and we'll just remain prayerful that all the other stuff will work itself out. And again, my condolences to you and your family, and we will begin to look forward to this upcoming week. I want to encourage you guys to make sure you're subscribed. First off, I got to say thanks to our broadcast team from Saturday. A lot of great comments and reviews from everyone who got a chance to watch the Tuskegee University broadcast that the Black College Sports Network did against Central State. Thank you to the folks at Tuskegee for reaching out, making it happen. And guess what? We'll be doing another game, I think. I don't know if it's official, but I think it's unofficial, official, whatever. I think we'll be doing a game this Saturday again. So the Tuskegee Lane game is this upcoming Saturday, 2:00 Eastern, 1 Central. I believe we'll have an opportunity to do that game as well. So you get a chance to watch Tuskegee football again, not only on the Tuskegee Athletics Facebook page, but it'll also be on the Black College Sports Network, MyBCSN.net. You'll get a chance to watch that. So thanks to everybody who subscribed, got a chance to watch it, and tell you guys all week. Make sure you're following, and make sure you watch out for Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Tuesday and Thursday nights at 7 Eastern. It'll be interesting to see who Doc has in his new rankings. Be interesting to see. Not a pollster, but it's okay. We'll get a chance to watch and observe and critique later. And then, of course, Wednesday night, for those who are interested in FAMU, we'll talk about it's the ONG Strike Zone Wednesday night, 8:00 Eastern, 7 Central, getting ready for the Alabama State game. And then going into the weekend on Saturday, Carlos Brown and Southern University. He'll be joined by Charles Edmond of Alcorn State. So big game for Alcorn. Southern's on a bye, and so they get a chance to kind of enjoy an off week with a win. So we'll see how things go. So, well, that's going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. For Coach Farasi Norman, who joined us earlier, for Jamie Walker, who joined us for the second half, or the last two-thirds of the show, rather, and for AD Drew, I'm Brian. Thanks for watching, guys. Be safe, take care of yourselves, and take care of your loved ones. And you've been watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. Peace and love.
Travel light.
But you stay hard.